Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Jiraiya refuses to train Naruto for Chunin exams part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. If you're going to live as a ninja, live wiser. If you remain an idiot, it will be tough to live in this world. That's the harsh truth. As the old man concluded his speech, he couldn't even bring himself to look at the young blonde. Or rather, to look at himself, trying to get Orochimaru to return once more. Alright, Naruto was sure it was a bluff, and he couldn't give up on his friend or his promise. If that's what it means to be wise, I'll be an idiot all my life. I'll think of an even greater technique and save Sasuke for sure. And then I'll beat Akatsuki up. If someone like you tries to do it all alone, all you'll think of is a bunch of useless, perverted techniques. Time is of the essence for him, but I can't let him continue down this path. It's too painful. And it could crush him completely. I know I said it would depend on the issue, but Naruto got a hopeful look on his face. He just knew Erosenin was going to agree to train him anyway. Instead, I will have you banned from leaving the village at all. Naruto's face fell immediately. NB will be watching you around the clock, and you won't be allowed to perform missions. Excuse me, I need to speak with Tsunade. Just like that, Jiraiya was gone. Naruto just lay there, in the hospital bed, wondering what to do. So now even he doesn't think I'm strong enough to do anything on my own. But he's probably right. The only jutsu I've ever created were perverted, and even those weren't really new jutsu. They were just changed. If I really want to get stronger though, I'll have to prove him wrong. I can't be Hokage if I never make any jutsu of my own anyway. For Sasuke, Sakura, and my dream, I have to get stronger. What do you mean you won't train Naruto? Tsunade was waiting until he mentioned data gathering to break all of his ribs. If you don't train him, then he won't stand a chance. I mean exactly that, Tsunade. He kept his voice calm, deciding not to test her temper. I won't train him until he gives up on chasing Sasuke. Her eyebrow twitching slightly, she forced herself to lower her voice. So that's how it is. You won't train him if he makes the same mistakes that you made, even though the circumstances are completely different, and they are not. Jiraiya couldn't help but interrupt if she was going to say something like that. Sasuke and Orochimaru are very similar, Tsunade, you can't deny that. They will both do anything to obtain power, and neither could ever be convinced to change their ways, even by their best friends. Jiraiya, truthfully, she had reached the same conclusion, but she didn't want to believe it. Naruto is just the type of person that can convince Sasuke to come back. Seeing Jiraiya about to interrupt, she held up her hand and continued. He changes people, Jiraiya? I've seen it, and I know you have too. I was thinking along the same lines as you. But Naruto is just the kind of person to prove us wrong. He will bring Sasuke back. Hearing Tsunade say something this naive was leaving Jiraiya with a bad taste in his mouth. The idea that she could believe something so absurd, even after what had happened with Orochimaru, was unsettling to say the least. If you want to believe in fairy tales, I won't stop you. Still, I won't train someone just to watch their spirit be crushed by utter failure a few years down the road. If you won't convince Anbu to watch him, I will. If you really won't train him, I won't. Not liking where this was going, Tsunade knew what she had to do. If that is really the case, then you're right. Naruto can't be allowed to leave the village, and I'll have someone watching him at all times. As much as I hate to do it, I'll have to stop letting him take missions too. So you finally came to your senses? No. She wasn't going to let him think he'd won. I just don't want any headaches while I wait for you to come to yours. He'll just keep complaining to me if I give him D-rank missions. I guess I should go tell him now. Using every ounce of her willpower to not hit Jiraiya square in the face, although she wasn't sure that it wouldn't be worth it, she headed to the hospital. Stopping just outside of Naruto's hospital room, Tsunade could hear him talking to Sakura. She decided that this conversation shouldn't be interrupted. Wait just a little longer, okay? I'll definitely keep my promise. Oh, they're talking about that. Maybe I should interrupt. No, it can wait. She was a little surprised that Sakura seemed so determined to help all of a sudden, but forced herself to focus on what she had to tell Naruto. When Sakura left, Tsunade waited a few seconds before entering. When she did, she decided to start the conversation on a soft note. So, Naruto, I heard you ran away from the hospital. Naruto's face tensed. Relax, Naruto, I'm not nearly as mad as Shizen. Still, you might want to listen to her next time. She couldn't help but form a grin, knowing that Naruto would never willingly lie down for an indeterminate period of time just because a medic told him he wasn't okay yet. When Naruto didn't respond immediately, Tsunade knew there was a problem. He had one of the biggest grins she had ever seen, which meant that he was probably troubled by something. Right when she was about to ask if he was okay, he decided to speak. So can I go yet? No. What? I'm fine, and I need to start training right away. About that, Naruto/now's as good a time as any/Jiraiya told me that he won't be training you. As Naruto's face suddenly became an over-exaggerated scowl, she decided that he was probably okay. I don't like what I have to do, but… You can't keep me in the village, Ba-chan. Naruto. He closed his mouth instead of screaming out whatever protest he had ready. With the threat of Akatsuki, and the current situation with Sasuke and Orochimaru, I have no choice but to keep you in the village. Without Jiraiya to protect you, the risk is too great. Jiraiya will come to his senses eventually, but until then all I'm asking is for you to wait patiently, alright? Maybe you could even use that time to make yourself stronger, instead of arguing with everyone just because you're upset. Obviously, that was the wrong thing to say. Naruto wouldn't even look at her while she tried to cheer him up, and she ended up leaving him in sour spirits. Naruto, realizing what had been wrong with Sakura during their conversation earlier that day, managed to break free of the bed and ran towards the town gate. Immediately after he convinced her to let him come with her, wherever she was going, Jiraiya came out of his hiding spot in the nearby forest. Don't try to stop us, Ero Sennin. Seeing Sakura figure out who he was, Jiraiya found himself slightly disappointed that he wouldn't get a chance to introduce himself. Still, he didn't show his disappointment, he just sighed and shook his head. I'm not going to stop you. While I'm not particularly happy to see you two turn Nukenin, what really bothers me is the stupid way you're handling this. I already told you, I'll bring Sasuke back for sure. Stupid perverted bastard . That's not what I meant, although I stand by what I said before. At Sakura's confused look, he kept going. What I'm saying is stupid this time is that, instead of taking the 3-year window that's been given to you as training time, you've decided to go attack Orochimaru while you're still weak. Even if you do convince that boy to come back, which will never happen, the 3 of you won't be able to get away from Orochimaru. But Jiraiya-sama Sakura didn't know what 3-year window he was talking about, but she didn't think it was that stupid. The sooner we get him back. Wrong. What is it with these kids and rushing, anyway? He won't be any less willing to come back in 3 years than he is now, the only difference will be how strong you've gotten. But I'm going to tell you what I told Naruto. Forget Sasuke. He left entirely on his own, and… No! She honestly didn't know which was worse, not getting Sasuke back, or remaining useless all her life. Still there was one thing she could never do, and that was giving up on chasing Sasuke. Even if he did leave on his own, Sasuke is our friend, our teammate. We won't leave him behind, and we won't forget him. If we need to get stronger to save him, then we'll just train and get stronger. So they're both idiots, huh? Well, Tsunade, I guess the situation is different, but if you want to be idiots, I can't change that. Just tell me now whether you're leaving or not so I know what to tell Tsunade. We won't leave. Naruto gave her a grin at that statement, but she didn't notice. We'll stay here and get strong enough to save Sasuke. Right, Naruto? Right, Sakura-chan. I really hope there were no ANBU watching me tonight. Naruto, Jiraiya couldn't believe how stupid they were being. Eventually you'll realize that I'm right and give up on Sasuke. Until then, I'll be around. As soon as you come to your senses, we can start training. Then I guess I'll just have to get stronger than you on my own, because there's no way I'll ever give up on Sasuke. Naruto put on a nice big grin, and Jiraiya left. Sakura, more confused than she had probably ever been in her life, left knowing that somehow, in some way, she needed to become strong. Naruto, who had snuck back into his hospital bed without bothering to replace his restraints, was given a rude awakening by Shizen. Naruto Keien. Opening his eyes, he could swear that there were flames in hers. You snuck out again. After a long, boring, and exceptionally loud speech about why he shouldn't leave the hospital until the medics tell him that his wounds are healed, Naruto was given another checkup. Finding nothing wrong with him, Shizen was forced to let him leave, though she was tempted to lie just to get back at him. While Naruto was glad to leave the hospital, he knew it wouldn't change much. Training would, of course, be necessary, but without Jiraiya it just didn't seem like it would be enough. He decided to start in the obvious place and work from there. Kakashi-sensei. I need you to. Sorry, Naruto. Kakashi had, of course, been told by Jiraiya not to train Naruto. He probably would have trained Naruto anyway, but Jiraiya was a legendary Sannin, after all. Crossing one of the few living ninja that could actually beat him with little effort was not high on Kakashi's to-do list. I'm busy. Seeing a slightly nervous look on Kakashi's eye, Naruto realized exactly when he had heard that before. You're training Sakura-chan, aren't you? No, Naruto, I'm not training. Wait. Haven't you heard yet? Heard what? Sakura is going to be Tsunade-sama's apprentice. Tsunade-sama just agreed this morning. What? Bachan's going to train Sakura-chan? Yup. Naruto was a little too shocked to know exactly what his opinion was, let alone voice it. After thinking it over for about a minute, he decided it was a good thing. She'll be that much stronger when we go to get Sasuke. A big smile on his face, he asked, so why can't you train me? I'm too busy with missions right now, sorry. It wasn't a complete lie. He had only one mission, but watching over Naruto every day from noon to midnight didn't really prevent him from training the boy. At Naruto's look, he decided to give him a little help that Jiraiya couldn't detect. Why don't you try asking Guy? I know he and Lee are maintaining a regular training schedule, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem for him to squeeze you in. Super Brows? You think he'd actually train me? Remembering how strong Lee had gotten under Guy, he knew that Guy's training would at least take care of his taijutsu needs. Still, it seemed a little odd that the Jounin would accept an extra student, no questions asked. If I know Guy at all, he'd be ecstatic to have you as a student. Next to Lee and Guy, you're probably the most willing of all Konoha ninja to work hard, and you never give up. That's exactly what he's looking for in students. Kakashi smiled, which was visible only in his eye. I'm sure he'd love to teach you. After many screams of joy and thanks, Naruto was off to find Guy. Guy and Lee were right where Naruto had expected to find them, the training grounds. Super Brows Sensei. Fuzzy Brows. While Lee happily greeted Naruto, Guy remembered the conversation he had had with Jiraiya. In particular, the threats came to mind. Naruto, I know why you're here, and he couldn't bring himself to say it. The very idea of not training someone so youthful and passionate was everything that he was not, and he wasn't about to lie about his reasons either. With extreme difficulty, and a very deep sigh, Guy made his decision. I can't train you. What? Guy-sensei, surely Naruto-kun. Lee. At this, Lee went silent. I wish that I could train you, Naruto, but I can't. This was the most serious Naruto had ever seen Guy, and it was starting to unnerve him. I'm sure you want to know why, but I can't tell you. Oh. Does he hate me because of Kyuubi? Is it because of suddenly Naruto stopped, glanced at Lee, and put on a big grin. That's okay, Super Brows. I'll just have to get stronger than you without your help. Guy, just figuring out what Naruto was going to ask before noticing Lee, didn't want the boy to have the wrong idea. Interrupting Lee's protests that Naruto was underestimating him, Guy said, Lee, that's enough. Naruto, about your question a moment ago, that isn't the reason. Naruto, happy that Guy wouldn't refuse him because of Kyuubi, but angry that Guy still refused him for some reason that he wouldn't even say, left without saying anything. He had really liked the idea of training with Guy, since one of his main weaknesses was his speed, but he got over it quickly enough. I only know 2 other Jounin sensei. If I ask Asuma sensei, I might have to deal with Ino, so I should probably start with Kurenai sensei. 20 minutes later, Naruto managed to find Kurenai, along with her team, in one of the last places he would have ever expected them, Training Area 8. Seriously, he could understand Lee and Guy training at 8 o'clock in the morning, but these 3? Unfortunately, Hinata, Kiba, and Shino had been sparring, and Naruto's sudden appearance within Byakugan's range caused Hinata a temporary lapse in awareness. Kiba, the idiot that he was, took advantage of this blunder in a way that knocked Hinata unconscious. Naruto saw it, but chose to ignore it, since he really had no need to see Hinata anyway. Kurenai-sensei. I need to talk to you for a second. This came as something of a shock to the crimson-eyed woman, who could think of no reason that Naruto would want to talk to her. Me? Yeah. I need you to help train me. Train you? Shouldn't Kakashi handle that? Jiraiya's words were flashing through her mind, and she realized that he must have threatened just about every Jounin that Naruto had ever met. He says he's busy. I asked Guy-sensei too, but anyway, I need someone to train me. Could you PL? Idiot. It was Kiba. She has her own team to train, she can't train you too. Kiba. Although she felt it was a valid point, it wasn't one she was willing to use. If anyone was priority, it was Naruto. Still, she couldn't train him against Jiraiya's wishes, it would have been too dangerous. Naruto, I'm sorry, but I can't train you. His face fell, and Kiba's went from a frown to a look of pure ecstasy. It's just that why don't you ask Asuma? Apparently not noticing the fact that she didn't explain herself in any way, Naruto just nodded and ran off. 5 minutes later, He was exactly where he knew he would find Asuma, Chuji's favorite barbecue restaurant. He walked up to the table, and was about to ask Asuma the question even though he knew the answer, but was interrupted by Ino. "What are you doing here, Naruto?" "What do you mean by that?" "I mean exactly what I asked. What are you doing here?" "I would have told you by now if you would shut up for a few seconds." "What did you say? Don't just interrupt our team breakfast and tell me to shut up." "I didn't interrupt your team breakfast. You yelled at me." "But you..." "Would you two please be quiet? You're being too troublesome." Shikamaru was convinced that 8 in the morning was too early to be fighting in a restaurant. "Naruto, what did you want?" Asuma had a bad feeling about Naruto's presence. Remembering what Jiraiya had said to him, he almost thought that Naruto wanted training, before realizing how ludicrous the idea was. "Asuma-sensei, I actually wanted to ask you, would you please train me?" Asuma dropped his meat, his chopsticks, and his jaw. He had to have been Naruto's last resort, considering that not only did his team not get along with Naruto, but they weren't exactly known for being well trained. Did Jiraiya threaten everyone in the village or something? Suddenly jolted back into reality by his students calling his name, Asuma looked down to see that Chuji had taken his meat. "Sorry, Naruto, but no." "What? Why not?" "I'm busy." "Kakashi-sensei already used that one." "I can't tell you why." "Guy-sensei." "Why don't you ask?" "Kurenai-sensei." "I'm sure that Tsunade-sama could." "Just tell me why." At this point, Asuma's team was getting a little curious, too. It was one thing for Asuma to just say no, but to refuse to give the reason showed that it was either something stupid or something serious. "I don't care what the reason is, I just want to know." "Tsunade-sama could probably find someone to teach you." Many frustrated yells later, Naruto left the restaurant to confront Tsunade. He hoped that she would at least be able to force someone to train him. She almost blew him off before remembering how overly bitter Jiraiya had been, and said she'd have someone meet him at Ichiraku's for lunch. As he finished his 12th bowl of ramen, Naruto heard his name from behind him. "Naruto-kun? Shizune-chan? You're going to train me?" As far as Naruto knew, his chakra control was too poor to be a medic nin. "No, Tsunade-sama, you coward, I'm here to tell you that no one will train you." "Eh?" It took Naruto a few moments to process that statement. Tsunade, the Hokage, could not find him a teacher. Not one jounin was willing to train him, a new low. When he finally realized that, his face fell. So that's it then. Shizen had never known Naruto to look so weak and pitiful. "Naruto-kun." Suddenly his head lifted, his face became an enormous grin, and he was laughing. "I guess that means I'll just have to get stronger on my own. Who needs a sensei when they have my raw talent?" Shizen found herself smiling a bit, even if she knew it was a bluff. "So, Shizen-chan, do you want some ramen? I was just about to order some more, so I could get you some if you want." Looking at his stack of bowls, she almost fainted. Where does he put it all? I'm sure, Naruto-kun. She wasn't exactly eager to get back while Tsunade was still angry anyway. Kakashi relieved the ANBU of his post just in time to watch Naruto and Shizen leaving Ichiraku's. After following Naruto home, and he saw a very strange sight, Naruto sat at his table quietly, staring at a wall. For an hour. Of all the spying jobs Kakashi had had, that was by far the most boring. He was almost nearing the level of boredom where he would tell Naruto about his job of watching over the boy just to see the reaction when Naruto suddenly jumped up, shouted "Yada!" several times, and bolted out the door. What he didn't realize, of course, was that Naruto had finally figured out how to start training. The boy had, for the first time in his life, spent an hour just sitting and thinking. His first decision was to not use Kyuubi's chakra anymore unless his life depended on it. If he used Kyuubi's chakra, he would never get stronger, and he didn't want to have to rely on the stupid fox. His second decision was to focus on his weaknesses instead of his strengths, another first. Remembering his fight with Sasuke, his weaknesses were his speed and taijutsu style. It had only taken him 4 minutes to realize that much, but the real problem was how to improve them. Then he had a brilliant idea: why not just imitate his predecessors? He was going to become the greatest Hokage, after all, so why not learn from those before him? Running as quickly as he could towards the training grounds, Naruto thought about Yondaime. Widely regarded as the strongest Hokage, as far as Naruto knew, Yondaime had specialized in speed. Although his natural speed was probably impressive, Naruto faintly remembered hearing something about a jutsu to increase speed. But how did he do it? Reaching the training ground at last, Naruto ran right into the middle of it and again stood still and silent. Kakashi settled into a tree just in time to hear Naruto screaming Chikushu. He mentally prepared himself for a long day. Mind racing, Naruto tried to think of how people invented techniques from scratch. While it was true that he had invented jutsu before, they were both bastardizations of existing techniques. Still, someone had to have invented those techniques, which meant that there had to be a way to invent new ones. All he had to do was think about how to make himself faster. That's it. When the QB chakra fills my body with chakra, oh right. I wasn't going to use his chakra anymore. Well, maybe if I just pump chakra into my muscles, it'll do the trick. To a jounin as experienced as Kakashi, it was pretty obvious what Naruto was trying to do. Still, it was hard to resist the urge to scrub his eye and look again. That Naruto would actually believe that he could duplicate Shunshin no Jutsu, an A-rank jutsu only known to Yondaime, was absurd. Well, at least it'll be interesting. 2 hours into Naruto's training, Kakashi was stunned. Granted, Naruto's new technique was by no means done, and it was certainly no Shunshin no Jutsu, but it was well on its way. The first few times Naruto had tried it, he had gotten no effect whatsoever. By the end of his little training period, he had been able to multiply his speed by 1.5. If he had kept going, Kakashi was sure he could have gotten it to double, but Naruto was contented for the day. Recognizing that his jutsu was multiplying his speed instead of adding to it, Naruto realized that it would be much more effective if he trained his speed too. This, of course, meant that Naruto needed to focus on both techniques and physical training if he wanted to get Sasuke back. Cursing his job all the while, Kakashi followed Naruto as the boy ran 100 laps around Konoha. Not only did Kakashi have to run enough laps around Konoha to leave him hard of breath under normal conditions, he had to do it while staying hidden. It was a good thing that Naruto was so slow, or Kakashi might have actually lost him. When Naruto finally stopped, he looked tired, but not nearly as tired as Kakashi had expected. Over 6.5 hours of running, and the boy looked like he could go for at least 2 more. That's enough running for today. The blonde exclaimed his thought as though he knew someone was running with him, which put Kakashi on edge a little. Truth be told, Naruto had no idea who was following him, and he hadn't really been thinking of them when he had said it. I wonder if Ichiraku's is still open. Of course, Kakashi couldn't help but think about the irony of Naruto going against his word as he chased after the boy, who was running through the streets at a much faster pace than Kakashi would have thought possible. By 9 o'clock, Naruto had finished his dinner, which had consisted of 10 bowls of miso ramen and 10 bowls of pork ramen. To Kakashi's extreme chagrin, he once again found himself chasing after a moving target as Naruto ran back to the training grounds. For a moment, he found himself wondering whether Naruto was going to try his technique again, but the boy opted instead for more physical training, squats, push-ups, kicks, and punches. As midnight rolled around, Naruto headed back to his apartment in a run. Mentally cursing whoever had invented running, as it appeared Naruto would be doing quite a bit of it, Kakashi followed. The midnight to noon guy, as Kakashi called him in his head, came and relieved him of duty. After slowly making his way home, Kakashi fell into a blissful sleep, only to be plagued by nightmares of endless running. Kakashi showed up outside of Ichiraku's a little early the next day, so that the midnight to noon guy could give him an update on Naruto's progress. Even if he was assigned to tail Naruto, he felt he would be a pretty crappy sensei if he didn't bother to keep up with his students' progress. What he learned left him respecting Naruto more than almost any other ninja he had ever met. Not only had Naruto gotten up at 6 in the morning, meaning that he had only gotten 6 hours of sleep, but the boy had run an additional 100 laps. The most impressive thing about it, however, was that he had improved his time significantly. With less sleep, and a small breakfast by anyone's standards, let alone his, Naruto had managed to run 100 laps of Konoha in 5 hours flat, meaning that he had reduced the time per lap by a full minute. The ANBU had actually gotten so winded that he lost Naruto after the 90th lap, and went back to the spot where Naruto had started to wait for him. This kid is incredible, Kakashi. It's just ridiculous. Even after all that running, he created 50 Kage Bunshin and had a taijutsu tournament. I don't know where he gets his stamina, but I wish he'd lend me some. Thanks for the update, Hoshi. You should probably go rest for the rest of the day. Where the hell is this coming from? I understand the stamina, but After lunch, Naruto started into his physical workout first, to get it out of the way. It never once occurred to him that weakening his muscles before attempting to use a technique that increased their output would be a bad idea, but with his body it wasn't really a problem anyway. Kakashi watched as, from 12:30 to 3, Naruto did squats, push-ups, punches, and kicks. I can understand that he's determined, but this borders on obsessive. Not only that, he's improving so quickly that I can actually watch it. And he never runs out of energy. How badly did I underestimate you, Naruto, slash. Then came the part of the day that Kakashi had been waiting for, Naruto's jutsu. Even though the idea that Naruto was working off of was different than Yandame's, and probably wouldn't work quite as well, it was more fun to watch than anything else Naruto did. For 8 hours Naruto tried the jutsu over and over again, until he got to the point where his speed was doubled. Then he collapsed, right in the middle of the field. Worked a little too hard, and Naruto? Kakashi walked over to check on Naruto, and wasn't surprised in the least to find him unconscious. Then he realized something very suspicious. Naruto skipped dinner. Having the decency to carry Naruto home and lay him in bed, Kakashi couldn't help but marvel at the kid's stamina. When Hoshi arrived, Kakashi went to get some sleep, deciding to tell Tsunade about Naruto's accomplishments the next morning. Almost 3 weeks from the beginning of Naruto's new training regimen, and Kakashi was getting less and less impressed. No major improvements had really been made by the blonde since that first day. He had reduced his lap time to 2.5 minutes per lap and added 25 laps, which had caused Midnight to Noon Guy to cry a little, and he had gotten his new jutsu to triple his speed instead of doubling it, but that was it. Having about an hour left until Naruto's training for the day would end, Kakashi was reflecting on the promise Naruto had shown 3 weeks prior, when he saw something he hadn't expected. Naruto just stopped. He didn't look like he was suffering from chakra depletion or anything of that nature, he just stopped. Standing completely still, staring into space, Naruto realized something that should have been obvious to him from the start. Hand seals. But which ones? How do people figure this kind of thing out anyway? What, do they just move their hands at random and happen across techniques? With that he, warily, went through, trying each hand seal with the jutsu to see which would work best. He found that the rabbit and sheep seals were the only ones that really changed anything, and decided to try them together. He found that using sheep then rabbit actually reduced the effectiveness, but using rabbit then sheep actually doubled it. Though he was low on chakra, he was able to multiply his speed about 6 times by the end of the night. Kakashi was so shocked by the effectiveness of Naruto's technique that he didn't even notice the boy pass out. This boy, a genin, had created a jutsu almost as effective as Yandame Hokage's most frequented jutsu. Not only that, his technique showed the potential to overcome Yandame's, because Shunshin no jutsu always multiplied speed 8-fold, while Naruto's jutsu's effect was proportional to the chakra used. In other words, the stronger Naruto got, the more useful the technique got. A few minutes later Kakashi finally realized that Naruto wasn't going to get back up, so he took the genin home and laid him in bed. Saturday came once more, marking the 3-week point, and Naruto had named his jutsu. Naruto Senka no Jutsu, Naruto Flash Technique, was born, and Naruto was able to get it to multiply his speed by 10 without collapsing. Kakashi was curious about where Naruto would go from there though. If Naruto was really planning on basing his training on the skills of the previous Hokage, he would need to know more about the man. More, in fact, than would be possible to learn. Naruto, noting the same problem, was avoiding at all costs making the conclusion that he knew was necessary. Even if he had known other skills of Yandame, he would eventually have had to move on to his other predecessors if he was to execute his plan. This, unfortunately, led to an extremely undesirable eventuality. He would have to go to the library. In his entire life, Naruto had only been to the library once. He had only gone because one of his classmates had told him that only idiots never went to the library, and he had wanted to find something that could help with his pitiful grades at the academy. Instead, he found a maze of scrolls with no apparent method of navigation, a mean old lady who seemed to think that breathing too loudly should be outlawed, and an odd smell. While he had always enjoyed reading the scrolls that the academy gave him, he had trouble believing that the library was worth the trouble. Suddenly the library was becoming an important resource, and he had no idea how to use it. Placing her hand over the cut, and using her precise chakra control, Sakura watched it heal over completely. Yada! I did it, Tsunade Shursho. Tsunade looked up to see that the cut was completely healed. Good job, Sakura. You'll need to heal a larger cut just to make sure, but I think you're probably ready for the next jutsu. She prepared the kunai to make the incision, but there was a knock at the door. Come in. As Kakashi made his way into the room, she couldn't help but feel a little annoyed. Kakashi? Aren't you supposed to be on a mission? Hi, Tsunade-sama, but I left that in the hands of an ANBU so that I could come speak to you. He glanced at Sakura. It's about Naruto's training. Has Jiraiya finally realized that he's being an idiot? No, he glanced at Sakura again, making it much more obvious this time. Anything you have to tell me, you can tell to my apprentice as well, Kakashi. Sakura stiffened slightly. Is he having trouble? Not exactly, Tsunade-sama. Realizing at last that Tsunade was not going to excuse Sakura from the room, Kakashi sighed. The truth is that he's probably doing a better job of training himself than Jiraiya could ever hope to do. Tsunade, who had started making the cut on the rabbit, slipped and made an extremely large gash on its abdomen. Whoops, she started healing the rabbit. Continue please, Kakashi. Yes, well, aside from having a level of stamina that has, quite literally, brought an elite ANBU to tears, Naruto has nearly doubled his natural speed. He has also doubled. Sakura felt embarrassed about being completely outclassed in such a way. He doubled his speed in 3 weeks? Not quite, Sakura, but nearly. Laps around Konoha, which took him 4 minutes 3 weeks ago, now take him about 2.5 minutes each. He's taken to doing 125 of them each morning after waking up, which is causing Hoshi. Does he keep the same pace the entire way? Tsunade felt it was a legitimate question. It would enable her to judge his speed increase and his stamina increase in one go. He does 125 laps in a little over 5 hours. But does he run full speed the entire way or slow down as time goes by? He keeps his maximum pace the entire way. Sakura and Tsunade both had the same expression, one they would probably wear after being hit in the face with a frying pan. Which, as I was saying, causes Hoshi to lose track of him for up to an hour at a time. The first time that Naruto reached this pace, Hoshi actually did cry a little. Kakashi got a smile on his eye. That was pretty funny to watch. Although, to be fair, it's probably good that Hoshi's getting some decent training in while he's on this mission anyway. That isn't the impressive part, Tsunade-sama. Not the impressive part. Thinking about it, Tsunade began to wonder if she could hold her maximum pace for 5-hour spurts right after waking up. What the hell could be more impressive than that? Well, for one thing, he's only getting 6 hours of sleep per night, and he's skipping breakfast and dinner. Several moments of silence ensued. Although, he added more to break the silence than because he thought it important, that may just be a money issue. Without missions, we can hardly expect him to continue to eat the same amount. Oh crap. I didn't even think about that. I'll arrange to get him some kind of paid leave. So, are we to the part where I can freak out yet, or is there more? She felt there was no real need to ask the question, as little could be more impressive than that level of improvement and stamina with a reduced diet and less sleep. She was, as usual, wrong. There's more. Kakashi had a wide grin on his face, but was thankful that his mask was hiding it. He's already invented a jutsu. A powerful jutsu. Sakura could feel a little jealousy setting in. Naruto invented a jutsu. Are you sure it's really Naruto? Yes, Sakura, I'm sure. Tsunade-sama, you might want to sit down for this. It's one hell of an accomplishment. Tsunade, deciding not to argue at this point in the conversation, sat where she was on the floor and motioned Sakura to do the same. Naruto's jutsu, do you remember Shunin no jutsu? He's duplicated Yandame's jutsu? Even Jiraiya never figured that out. Relax, Tsunade-sama, he didn't duplicate it. He couldn't help but grin at the relieved look on her face. He made his own technique that has the same type of effect, only Naruto's technique is more effective. More effective? Are you sure? Tsunade-sama, Yandame was my sensei. I'm entirely sure. Sakura, confused beyond reason, decided it was time to get in on the conversation. Excuse me, Tsunade-shosho, but what's Shunin no jutsu? It was a technique created by Yandame, Sakura. Tsunade decided there was no reason not to tell Sakura, since she had been the one to say that Sakura should stay anyway. Shunin no jutsu, which Yandame never taught to anyone and a Sharingan couldn't copy, was a supplementary technique. Using the technique, Yandame was able to multiply his speed 8-fold. Sakura looked completely shocked. Tsunade didn't know whether it was because of the effect of the jutsu or the fact that Naruto's was more effective than Yandame's, but she didn't really care. How effective is Naruto's? Well, Tsunade-sama, it depends. Depends? On what? Naruto's technique is able to change how much it amplifies his speed based on how much chakra is poured into it. At his current level, he can multiply his speed by 10 comfortably. That is, of course, after his daily laps, Kage Bunshin Taijutsu tournament, and physical workout. If I had to guess, I would say that he's capable of multiplying his speed 25-fold without becoming completely useless. Yet more silence met Kakashi's ears at this statement, but it was an expected silence. A stunned silence, at the fact that Naruto had essentially surpassed Yandame in 3 weeks. He felt the need to give the kid proper tribute, though, so he added the technique is called Naruto Senki no Jutsu. This caused Tsunade to start chuckling, which in turn brought Sakura to her senses. So he couldn't resist naming it after himself, huh? What rank do you think it is? B rank. Maybe A rank, but for now I'll say it's in the upper bounds of B rank. Also, there's something odd about it. Odd? Aside from the fact that a genin, who was considered by everyone to be weaker than average, managed to create it to be more powerful than the technique that a genius Hokage created? Yes. My Sharingan was unable to copy the technique, even though he uses hand seals for it. Of the many things that were running through Tsunade's mind, the one that came out of her mouth was the one that made her angriest. You tried to copy his first original jutsu. Yes, and I'll take the time to be ashamed later. He didn't really plan on being ashamed, as copying techniques was part of what had made him such a powerful ninja, but she didn't need to know that. The important point right now is that I couldn't copy the jutsu, meaning that Sasuke and Itachi won't be able to either. Are you sure? Yes. Her mood lightening a little bit, Tsunade decided that Sakura's training needed some stepping up. Is there anything else you need to tell me, or can my apprentice resume her training now? Just one more thing that I forgot to mention. Of course, Kakashi hadn't forgotten it. He had left it out on purpose to add dramatic effect. Since Naruto's jutsu works differently than Yandame's, it also has a bonus effect. He paused to watch her reaction, which was priceless. Where Yandame's jutsu only increased speed, Naruto's also increases strength to the same degree. What did you just say? I'm sorry, but I could have sworn I just heard you say. I did. Sometimes it really pays to wear a mask and it does. With that, Kakashi left the room to speak to Guy. It took a few minutes for Sakura to feel up to continuing her training, and her chakra control was slightly worse than normal when she did continue. Guy, having heard the same speech about Naruto's training, looked like he had seen a ghost. So you're telling me that your student, Uzumaki Naruto, has created a B-rank jutsu that would allow him to be stronger and faster than Lee? Actually, his speed and strength would probably be on par with mine, if he went all out with it. But if Lee used the Hashiman, he could still. Yes, Guy, but that isn't the point. Kakashi sighed. His obsession with Lee is a little creepy sometimes. My point is that I'm starting to feel guilty about giving in to Jiraiya so easily. With Naruto working so hard, I could probably get him to Sannin level in a year or two. Yes, he really does embrace the spirit of youth quite well, doesn't he? Kakashi almost sweat dropped. I regret not being able to aid his training, but Jiraiya can be persuasive. Couldn't you at least give him some kind of scroll without Jiraiya finding out? Kakashi was reduced to pleading, but he still managed to sound aloof. I would hate to see that talent go to waste, and you are the best taijutsu user in Konoha. Well, I don't really have any scrolls. I could probably get him some weights, but I have a feeling that Jiraiya would find out about that. I'll think of something. The burdens of age will not douse his burning spirit of youth. Pondering the mechanics of Guy's shining tooth, Kakashi made his way back to his mission. There it was, the library. Looming over him like as the very gates of hell, the door to this home of demonic, old, quiet obsessed ladies dared Naruto to enter, so that the monsters inside could devour the very essence of his suffering in the air. His interior struggle ending, he decided to take a cautious peek inside. Seeing no one sitting at the librarian's desk, he quickly dashed inside. He was glad to not have to deal with the old lady immediately, but he knew it was coming. Randomly picking an aisle to search, as the numbering system made no sense to him whatsoever, he checked a few of the books. Ika Paradise? Why do they have adult books in the library? Oh, so that's where he put it. The owner of the voice, a beautiful young girl with light brown shoulder-length hair and brown eyes, snatched the book from Naruto, smiling at him. I knew he had to have hidden one somewhere. He never comes to the library without doing that. Ero-sennin was here? Ero-sennin? You mean Jiraiya-sama? Yes, he was here. Oh. Realizing that he really didn't have a reason to care, Naruto had nothing else to say about it. He stood there silently for a few seconds before turning back to the shelf and looking through the books. After about 4 books, he realized that nothing on this aisle would be of any use unless he wanted a biology lesson. Kyuso. How am I supposed to find anything in this place, anyway? The girl smiled cheerily. I could help you. I'm Mabui, what's your name? He stared at her for a second before asking, you don't know? Frowning slightly, she shook her head. I'm Uzumaki Naruto, the next Hokage. If you're the Uzumaki Naruto? That's so cool. Unknown to Naruto, Mabui was probably the only non-ninja in the village who had ever considered Naruto a hero. She had only been 7 years old when the Kyuubi had been sealed, but she still knew about it all. I never thought I'd get to meet the hero of the village. And on my first day as the head librarian, this is so cool. 3 things about her reaction struck Naruto as wrong. First, even though she clearly knew about Kyuubi, she seemed to be glad that he was there instead of angry that he was breathing her air. Second, she had just called him the hero of the village, which was about the furthest thing from what everyone else called him that he could imagine. Finally, she had said that she was a librarian, yet she was clearly an energetic, loud young girl. Deciding not to press his luck on the first 2 points, Naruto decided to ask her about the third. You're a librarian? What happened to the old lady? Oh, she retired yesterday. I'm her replacement. If there's anything I can ever help you with, don't hesitate to ask. I'd be honored to help. Naruto just stared at her in shock, his jaw dropped. If he had heard her correctly, and he wasn't sure that he had, she had just said that she would be honored to help him, and that he shouldn't hesitate to ask. Could you repeat that, please? I'm sure there was some kind of cruel sarcasm that I missed the first time or something, because for a moment I thought you actually offered to help me. I did offer to help you. Her smile never wavered, but she felt a strike of pity for him. The way the villagers had treated him was horrible, and she knew it. Any time you need my help, I'd be honored to give it to you. It's the least I could do. Oh, that's a first. Smiling, he decided that she was serious. Could you help me find info on the past Hokages, then? It would really help my training, but I can't. The Hokages? Sure thing, Naruto-kun. You only missed it by 2 aisles. When they got to the Hokage information, Mabui took it upon herself to get him the best information available. He came out of the aisle with 3 scrolls and a book, and she assured him that the assortment was the most detailed account of the Hokages available, including their styles. After getting him set up at one of the research tables visible from her desk, she returned to her post. Naruto, still freaked out by the fact that one of the villagers seemed to think of him as a hero, started with the book. Mabui had recommended a certain reading order, and he wasn't about to question it. The information he got from the book was mildly discouraging, though. Apparently most of Shodai's techniques were only usable by him, and they were the core of his style. Doubting his ability to mimic that, Naruto moved on to the first scroll. After an interesting story about Nidame's tutelage, it revealed that most of Nidame's jutsu were extremely advanced water jutsu. Naruto, not knowing anything about water jutsu, moved on to the third scroll. While Sandame's background story was very interesting, his style was almost the exact opposite of Naruto's. Sandame was known for knowing every non-bloodline technique in Konoha, a feat that would take too long for Naruto to accomplish. Not only that, Sarutobi didn't use taijutsu at all, opting instead for weapon combat. Naruto didn't like where his excursion was heading, but he forced himself to open the final scroll. The first thing he noticed was that large portions of the scroll, including all references to Yandame's name and background, had been carefully covered in ink. The second thing he noticed was that he looked a lot more like Yandame than the mountain had made him think. Mabui-chan? She rushed over. Yes, Naruto-kun? Can I help you with something? Why is all of this stuff about Yandame blacked out? Oh, that? She had really hoped that he wouldn't ask about that. Well, Sandame passed a law stating that information couldn't be transmitted by any means. Godame has stated that the law is to be upheld, so it would be illegal for us to have an uncensored version of the scroll. Why would his name have to be secret? I can understand the rest of it, maybe, but his name… I'm sorry, Naruto-kun, but the only way you could learn his name would be to ask someone who knew him, and even then they would have to break the law to tell you. Oh, thanks. No problem, Naruto-kun. She slowly ambled back to her post. Reading through the scroll, Naruto was surprised to find that Yandame was only famous for 3 techniques, and his physical training methods were unknown to everyone except Jiraiya. Realizing that the scrolls had been something of a waste of time, Naruto tried to think of some way that he could mimic one of them. He finally came to the conclusion that he would just have to improve on the techniques he had, and went to put everything away. It was at that point that he realized he had no idea where everything went. Mabui-chan? Where did this stuff go again? Oh, let me help you. With her help, the scrolls and book were back in place in a matter of seconds, which he found marginally creepy. Did you find everything you needed, Naruto-kun? Well, yes, but it wasn't as helpful as I thought it would be. Mabui's face was instantly downcast. Well, she brightened up. If you ever need anything, just ask. I have a lot of free time, so all you'll have to do is find me. Oh. She got a pen and some paper, and quickly wrote something down before handing it to him. Here's my address, just in case you can't find me here. You gave me your address? Is she crazy? She just met me, Of course. I've always wanted to meet you, ever since, well, you know. The way they treat you, it's criminal. Especially after you saved our lives and our village. That, and I can tell that you're a really nice person. I'd be honored to help you with anything. Still slightly freaked out by the fact that a librarian made a habit of shouting almost every sentence, Naruto couldn't help but smile. Here was a person who, before even meeting him, didn't hate him for carrying the Kyuubi. She even trusted and liked him. The only other person for whom that held true, in his memory, was Sandaime, but Mabui was different somehow. Well, I've gotta go train. Thanks for everything, Mabui-chan. Kakashi came back to his post just in time to see Naruto leave the library, of all places, and was treated to an afternoon run. Naruto was using the thinking time provided by running around the village 125 times to plan his next move. Over 5 hours later, Naruto came to a sudden halt in front of Training Ground 7. He had a vague idea of how he could improve the Rasengan, but he wasn't really sure how to work it. Kakashi, an elite jounin and ex-Anbu, had his hands on his knees in his attempt to catch his breath. Suddenly, he found himself very able to sympathize with Hoshi. He even considered apologizing for saying that it would be good training for the poor man. How Naruto could keep up such a pace for such a long time so often was completely beyond human comprehension. Naruto's second 5-hour all-out sprint of the day, and the boy barely looked tired at all. When he finally caught his breath, Kakashi was more than a little surprised to see Naruto standing in the same place, staring off into space. It was becoming too common an occurrence in the usually boisterous boy. At this point that Kakashi decided it, Naruto was officially the weirdest person to spy on in the history of ninja. Might as well try it. Naruto figured that he could at least give his idea a shot, seeing as how the library was closed. His idea was really pretty simple: increase the number of directions of rotation in the Rasengan. From what he could remember of his training with Jiraiya, having multiple rotational directions was one of the key elements of power for the technique. He also remembered Jiraiya saying something about the direction of the swirl being different for different people, because their coils twisted in different directions. Put simply, the fact that the coils had twists in them limited the number of directions that the chakra could rotate in. The idea that Naruto had come up with, however, seemed to eliminate that problem. He reasoned that, if he introduced the rotation with both hands at the same time, each hand would cause rotation in a different direction. When you place two clocks face to face, clockwise on one will be counterclockwise on the other. Thinking this over in his head a few times, and finding no flaws, he decided to try it. Facing his hands toward each other with enough space between them for a normal Rasengan, Naruto concentrated on swirling his chakra. Nothing happened. Frustrated, Naruto tried harder, only to realize a fatal flaw in his plan: if the hands rotate chakra in opposite directions, they cancel each other out. Never one to be discouraged by something as unimportant as logic, Naruto continued to try through most of the night. He found that he could get the rotations on different timings, but he couldn't keep them from meeting at some point in the rotation. Kakashi was a little too tired to figure out exactly what Naruto was trying to do to the Rasengan, but he still thought it looked promising. Considering the boy's first jutsu, he really couldn't wait to see how this would turn out. Still, he seriously hoped that Naruto would get the running out of his system in the morning the next day. Mabui-chan? Could you help me for a second? Naruto had decided during his morning run that he would need to do some research, even if he had no idea how to go about the task. He was certain that his idea would work, but he couldn't think of what he was doing wrong on his own. He actually came back. This is so cool, sure thing, Naruto-kun. What do you need? Do you know of any good books about physics? Physics? You sure have a weird set of interests, Naruto-kun. Although it still freaked Naruto out when she was nice to him, he had to admit that it was nice to know someone who was always so cheerful. What kind of physics? What kind? What do you mean, what kind? Well, what do you want to learn about? Physics is just a generalization for a bunch of different types of sciences. Why don't you just tell me what you want to know? I'm sure I can help you. What exactly do I want to know? Through a somewhat sheepish grin, he managed to say, I guess I want to know about rotational stuff. Oh, you mean centripetal force? At Naruto's blank look, she explained, centripetal force is the basic force that allows for rotation. Centripetal means center seeking, and it's called that because it provides a push on the object in the direction of the center of the circle of rotation. Huh! It clearly made sense to her, but to him it was just gibberish. I know. Imagine that a horse is pulling a cart through a field. If you walk alongside the horse, pushing its shoulders, you can make it turn, right? Yeah, but what does? Assuming that you apply a constant pressure to the horse, you can cause it to go in circles through the field, right? Naruto nodded. When you push the horse, you don't push it in the direction you want it to go. Instead, you push it towards the center of the circle. The horse will move forward in a straight line if left to itself, but because you push it towards that center point, its path becomes a compromise of your trajectory and its own. That's all that centripetal force really means. That made sense. / no one's ever explained anything so clearly before. / are you sure that was science talk? It just seemed like a normal conversation / well, maybe not normal, exactly / Mabui couldn't help but giggle a little. Yes, I'm sure. Is that the kind of thing you're looking for? Yeah, definitely. I need to learn this stuff for a technique I'm working on. A technique? / he wants my help with a technique? / I can find you all kinds of stuff. Mabui soon showed that she wasn't a librarian for nothing. Not only had she read seemingly every book in the entire building, she seemed to remember which ones had what information. She made Sakura look like an idiot. Naruto ended up back at the same table with 15 books and 13 scrolls, all bookmarked at the places where Mabui had thought they would be most helpful. Starting into the first book, Naruto instantly realized that Mabui was even more of a genius than he gave her credit for. He couldn't make heads or tails of anything it said. / centripetal force has a magnitude equal to the mass of the object multiplied by the square of its velocity divided by the radius of the circle. What the hell does that mean, / Seeing Naruto almost ripping his hair out within minutes, Mabui got slightly worried. Naruto-kun? Do you need some help? Getting no response, she made her way over to the table. Oh, is the jargon a little hard for you to understand? Jargon? You mean these are actually words? I was beginning to think that the person just wrote random letters to confuse me. Well, it never really gets very busy around here. I could help you learn this stuff if you want / I wonder if that came off nonchalant / His face brightened considerably. You'd do that? Of course. I'd be happy to help. Naruto glared at her suspiciously for a second. Why are you so nice to me? What do you mean? I like you. You're funny, smarter than you give yourself credit for, and fun to be around. But no one's this nice to me. Not even Irika-sensei or Bachan. Bachan? Tsunade. She lets you call her Bachan. Well, if no one else is this nice to you, then they don't know what they're missing. Naruto's glare disappeared. So what did you need help with? Actually, do you want to go get lunch first? He mentally checked his wallet. I know a great ramen place, and... Ramen? I love ramen. Here, let me just go on break. Kakashi arrived outside Ichiraku's ramen stand to find a very different midnight to noon guy than he was used to. Not only was Hoshi's breathing normal, the man was standing in plain sight, even though he was supposed to be spying on Naruto. Kakashi quickly pulled him into an alley to question his behavior. You do realize that Naruto isn't supposed to see you when you're spying, right, Hoshi? Oh, relax. It's not like he wasn't told we were watching him. Besides, he's way too distracted right now to notice me. Distracted? By what? He made a friend. A real friend. I have to admit, when I first took the job, I didn't really like him, but he's grown on me. This girl he's met though, wow. She's like the perfect friend for him. What do you mean by that? Kakashi decided to ignore the fact that Hoshi had, like everyone else, written Naruto off without even meeting him. It seems she always thought of him as a hero. I haven't heard her explicitly say it, probably because I wasn't paying much attention at first, but it's pretty obvious in her actions and words. A hero? So someone actually did see it the same way as Sensei / how old is she? 20. She lost her father and brother in the QB attack, too. Now that I think about it, though, he really is something of a hero. He didn't exactly plan it, but... Is there anything I need to know about this girl? Other than the fact that she's a librarian, has an IQ of 210 and a photographic memory, and managed to teach Naruto the basic principles of centripetal force in about 30 seconds? Not really. 210? Yup. Well, that's what all of our reports say, but it might be higher. Anyway, I'm gonna go get some sleep. The kid's getting a little faster with those laps again, and I have a feeling I'm going to need it. 210? Kakashi, wondering how it was that Naruto always happened upon the perfect person for whatever situation he was in, went back to his post. He had to admit, as he watched the two of them eat lunch, that Hoshi was right, she really was the perfect friend for him. Perpetually cheerful, energetic, full of laughter, and kind. She enjoyed his company as much as he enjoyed hers, and she was probably the only person Naruto had ever met who had been unconditionally kind to him from the start. The two just sat together, spending more time talking than eating, getting to know each other. Most of the things they talked about were fairly trivial. Mabui knew enough to avoid the topic of Naruto's past. Kakashi was a little surprised to see that her face never faltered when Naruto mentioned his dream of being the greatest Hokage, indicating that she believed wholeheartedly that he would succeed. Considering that she had never seen him in action, it was hard to believe that someone of her intelligence could have such blind faith in the boy. So begins a beautiful friendship, or something like that. Let's see, how can I explain this? By magnitude, they just mean the amount of force. As for velocity, that's just the speed the thing is moving at. Oh, I guess that makes sense, but I still don't really get it. Hold on. Mabui went to her desk, retrieved a pen and some paper, and came back to Naruto. Let's go back to the example we used earlier, forgetting the cart. The average horse is, what, 1,000 pounds? As he honestly didn't know, Naruto just shrugged. Well, let's just leave it at that for now. She scribbled it down on the paper. As for velocity, a horse's steps are probably about 3 feet, and most horses probably take 1 step per second or so we'll just say 3 feet per second. She wrote down the new figure. Assuming that you want to force the horse to walk in a circle with a diameter of 40 feet, she wrote this down as well, you would need to apply 450 pounds of constant pressure. That's it. But the horse weighs so much more than that. Yeah, but I already told you, you and the horse are working together. Applying force to a body in motion will cause. Kakashi just watched in awe as Mabui held Naruto's interest for 5 more hours with, of all things, physics. He was surprised, to say the least, that Naruto was trying to understand the physics of the Rasengan. How it was supposed to help, Kakashi had no idea, but he knew it couldn't hurt. What amazed him was the fact that Mabui managed to explain things like centripetal force and vector addition to Naruto in such a way that the boy could understand. Even he, the elite genius Chunin, was learning a few new things from their conversation. In fact, he was slightly disappointed when it came to a close. Oh, Naruto-kun, the library's going to close soon. Already? But we just got started. I could let you stay late if you like. I'm pretty much in charge around here, so it isn't a problem. No, that's okay. I should try out all of this stuff you've taught me today and see if it's helping yet. He put on a big grin, surprised that he didn't have to fake it. If you say so /Kyoso. Well, maybe next time just remember, anytime you need any help, I'm always at the ready. Thanks, Mabui-chan. And with that he was gone. He's going to make an excellent Hokage, don't you think? Kakashi was a little startled. You knew I was there? So they were right, you are a genius. Does that mean you agree with me, or are you just commenting on my observational skills? A little of both. So, according to what Mabui-chan was telling me earlier, my problem is that the hands aren't working together. I think. Instead of avoiding the other rotation thingies, they're meeting head-on. If their, what did she call them, magnitudes are equal, they cancel out, and otherwise the stronger one continues on in a weakened state yada. I actually understood it. Kakashi was getting frustrated. I'm a Jounin for God's sake. Why the hell can't I figure out what he's doing? Is it just because I don't know how to use the Rasengan? The main part of why watching Naruto develop Naruto Senku no Jutsu had been fun was that Kakashi had known what Naruto was trying to do, and he could gauge the boy's progress. Watching a boy standing in a forest with his hands a foot apart, talking to himself, was not something that interested the Jounin. I guess that means I'll have to find a way to make them not collide. Maybe if I put them on different timings? Grinning at how much Mabui had helped him, Naruto tried to do just that. 5 minutes later, the blonde sat on the ground with a heavy sigh. Kyuso. I can't get the timings right. Rasengan takes enough concentration normally. How am I supposed to concentrate on 2 hands at once? That's it. Jumping back up, Naruto formed a Kage Bunshin. If I can only concentrate on 1 hand at a time, then someone else needs to concentrate on the other hand. Standing side by side, Naruto and his Bunshin prepared the technique. Naruto held out his right palm towards his Bunshin's left palm, and Naruto went first. Taking turns adding rotations to the Rasengan, Naruto and his Bunshin were able to create nothing. The process of syncing with the Bunshin was more difficult than Naruto had anticipated. As midnight came around, no progress had been made on the technique. Kakashi, who had almost fallen asleep several times, followed a frustrated Naruto home before leaving Hoshi in charge. It escaped the Jounin how Naruto could have gone from dropout to genius and back to dropout in the course of less than a month, but he didn't really want to think about it. For all he knew, Naruto's idea, whatever it was going to be some spectacular all-powerful jutsu that could kill hundreds of ninja in the blink of an eye. Wednesday rolled around, and Naruto was making almost no progress with his technique. The additional days of study with Mabui had helped him understand the Rasengan almost completely, but they hadn't helped him understand the problem with his new technique. As he pulled on the library door, confident that Mabui's help would eventually get the problem solved, he found that it wouldn't open. Trying the door a few more times, he was sure that it was locked. Chikushu. What am I supposed to do now? Several minutes of complaining later, a thought occurred to Naruto. Oh yeah, she gave me her address. I don't really want to bug her at home, though. Well, maybe we could go out to lunch again. I remember thinking a lot better after having lunch with her the first time, so it might help. Hoshi, crying on the inside, followed as Naruto sprinted across town to his apartment, and then back across town to Mabui's apartment. It wouldn't have been too bad, except that Naruto had not only just finished his morning run, he had finished it in record time. Some days it just didn't pay to be an ANBU. Naruto just stood outside of Mabui's apartment, unsure of what to do. No one had ever given him their address before, much less invited him to come to their home whenever he wanted to. He couldn't help but think that it would be rude to show up unannounced, even if she had said it would be okay. What if she had company, or was still asleep? Or worse, what if she was sick? He definitely didn't want her to strain herself. In the end, he decided that he wanted to talk to Mabui badly enough that he didn't mind the rudeness factor. She had been the one to invite him over unprompted, after all, and she hadn't said what times would be convenient, so he had no real reason not to give it a shot. He knocked twice. Coming! Naruto could hear the sound of pans crashing to the ground and dresser drawers being thrown open. So he had woken her up. Oh, Naruto-kun. Can I help you with something? I'm sorry to bug you while you're sleeping, but I couldn't get into the library for some reason, and… Oh, you didn't know? The Konoha library is closed on Wednesdays and Thursdays. What? Why Wednesdays and Thursdays? Someone figured out that those were the days when the smallest number of people used the library, and that librarians needed 2 days off per week, so they just used those days. I could let you in though. Huh. Oh, that's okay. I actually came to ask if you wanted to have lunch with me, but if I'm bugging you, it's alright. Bugging me? Don't be ridiculous. I'd love to have lunch with you. I was going to go to that ramen place you showed me anyway. I've never had ramen so good. You really want to have lunch with me? Of course. Just let me grab my shoes. With the way he had been training, it was an extremely odd feeling for Naruto to walk to Ichiraku's, but he didn't mind. The extra time gave him a chance to talk to Mabui a little bit more. When they finally arrived, they both started off with 10 bowls of ramen, 4 miso, 4 pork, and 2 teriyaki chicken. So, Naruto-kun, how's your technique coming along? Has your studying been paying off? Naruto's face darkened slightly. Well, a little. I can't figure out what I'm doing wrong, but I know I'm missing something. Still, I'm a lot farther along than I would have been without your help. That's good. The ramen arrived, at which point they yelled in unison "Itadakimasu," and began eating. What does the technique do? It's a little hard to explain. Basically, I'm taking a technique that someone else invented and making it better. The technique rotates air in a ball with chakra, creating a little typhoon, and… Like Yandame's technique? Yandame had a technique like that, he called it Rasengan. Yeah, that's the technique that I'm improving. How do you know about it? I don't remember seeing it in that scroll that you gave me about him, and I know it isn't one of his famous techniques. Oh, well, Mabui looked like she was trying to hide something, so Naruto cut her off. You don't have to tell me, I was just curious. Anyway, I'm trying to make a little change to the technique that should make it way more powerful, but it's turning out to be harder than I thought it would be. There were a few moments of silence as they both ate their ramen. Could you show me your technique? Maybe I could help you figure out what's wrong. Are you serious? It seemed a little ridiculous that she would waste her day off helping him train. You'd give up your plans to help me? Well, yes, but I didn't really have any plans. No way. A great person like you? Yeah, well, my dad was killed during the QB attack, and my little brother died shortly thereafter. That takes care of my family, except my mother, who I can't stand in the least. I haven't really had any friends since I was a kid, mostly because I can't stand jerks that don't recognize a hero for what he is, and I don't have much of a love life, so… Why do you keep calling me that? Calling you what? A hero. It's not like I really did anything. That's not true. You're the most heroic person I've ever met. Naruto looked up from his ramen. It might be true that you didn't have any choice when it came to you-know-what, but you still saved the lives of all of the villagers. Not only that, but the way you've handled things has been, well, amazing. Growing up completely alone, with people fearing and hating you when they should have been loving and honoring you, you still managed to become such a cool person. A determined, hard-working, caring, funny dreamer, who'll stop at nothing to protect the people he cares about. And that's just what I've seen of you in the few days since I met you. Even though these people have hated you all of your life, and they let you know it, you turned around and sought the job of being their protector. You've got a strong spirit, Naruto-kun, and that makes you a hero as far as I'm concerned. Even I am and the old man were left staring in shock after her outburst. They had to admit to themselves, though, that she had a pretty damned good point. Most people would have killed themselves in Naruto's position, or else killed everyone around them, but Naruto had taken to the idea of becoming their protector, the Hokage. You really think that? Even though you're dad. That wasn't you. That was the thing that you saved us from. If I hear you associate that thing with yourself again, I swear I'll hit you. Anyone who hates you because they lost a family member should be thanking you that they didn't get killed as well, and you shouldn't let them get away with blaming you for its actions. Naruto smiled for a moment before frowning again. So the reason that you don't get along with people is me? I'm wrecking your life? Far from it, actually. Her face lit up. That's one more reason I've always thought of you as a hero, actually. I can separate out the completely idiotic jerks from the reasonable people based on how they think of you. It's true that there are people who dislike me simply because I don't dislike you, but those are people I never would have wanted to get involved with anyway. The way I see it, you're saving me from involving myself with the wrong kinds of people. Naruto's grin flickered back to life. So, will you show me the technique? Technique? Oh, right, sure. If you really have nothing better to do, I could use the help. Cool. I hope I can help. Let's go right after lunch then. Kakashi arrived a few minutes later, 5 minutes before he was supposed to go on duty. Although it had been extremely difficult for him to arrive early, for a real reason, Tsunade had been very persuasive in the matter, as he had an extra side mission. Seeing the pair eating quickly and quietly, he decided that it would be the perfect time to interrupt. Yo, Naruto. Kakashi-sensei. What are you doing here? Mabui's smile faltered as she looked up from her ramen. This is your sensei? Why was his sensei the one sent to spy on him? Yeah, I'm his sensei. Anyway, Naruto, I was told to give you this. He handed Naruto an envelope, and to tell you to expect the rest in the mail. Rest? Rest of what? Your pay. You didn't really think that Tsunade-sama was going to stop giving you missions and leave you to starve to death, did you? Pay? How can I get pay without doing missions? You're technically on paid leave right now, Naruto. Unless you'd rather not be paid, because I'm sure I can arrange that. No! Don't do that! Seeing the boy nearing tears, Kakashi couldn't help but think that Naruto was just no fun. It's okay, Naruto, I was just joking. Instantly cheering up, Naruto asked the first question that came to mind, how much am I getting? She didn't tell me, but probably not very much. Completely missing the fact that the first check had taken more than 3 weeks to get to him, Naruto opened the envelope to see how much the check was worth. His mouth opened, but no sound came out, and his eyes became as wide as they had ever been. Naruto-kun? Seeing him completely freeze up for several seconds, Mabui peeked over his shoulder at the check. How much is it? Oh my god! That's a lot of money! Let me see. Kakashi couldn't help but be interested after Mabui's reaction. His face would have been priceless if it hadn't been hidden. What? That's more than I get paid for S-rank missions. She's giving you this much every week. He realized only a moment too late that hysteria is not cool, and embarrassedly recomposed himself. Yeah, well, I have to go now, Naruto. I've got a mission. Later. Naruto stood completely still, staring at the check for a few moments, until I.M commented that his ramen was getting cold. He and Mabui instantly continued with their lunch, not wanting to let perfectly good ramen go to waste. Naruto and Mabui arrived at Training Ground 7 at about 12:30. Mabui, who had never bothered to attend the academy because she had never had a desire to be a ninja, was getting slightly anxious. From everything that she had read of ninja techniques, most of the difficulty was in chakra manipulation, and she had no experience with that. She decided to trust Naruto's judgment, considering that he was a professional. So, Naruto-kun, why don't you start by showing me the original technique? Yoshi! Naruto, utterly convinced that Mabui would figure out the problem, formed a Kage Bunshin, which proceeded to swirl chakra in his hand. A few seconds later he dispelled the Bunshin and held out the newly formed Rasengan for Mabui to look at. This is the Rasengan that Yanin came up with. Mabui stared at it for a few seconds, seemingly in a daze, before switching her gaze to Naruto and adopting a serious look. Okay, I think I've gleaned all I can from seeing this one. What was your idea to make it better? Oh, right, he quickly explained his idea and his progress, which Mabui took a moment to process. Do you know what I'm doing wrong? Mabui stayed silent, a frown on her face. When Naruto went to ask her again, though, she cut him off. I might, but I'm not really sure. Could I see you try it? Okay, Naruto was a little embarrassed to be demonstrating an unfinished technique to Mabui, but if it was going to help, Naruto and his newly formed Kage Bunshin stood side by side, just like every other time, and started their technique. Mabui watched intently as the technique seemed to work, but suddenly stopped for no apparent reason. She had been right after all. I don't know why, but it always stops right there. It doesn't have enough room. Naruto stared dumbly at her for a second. Huh? What do you mean? It's just spinning air. How can it not have enough room? It's not just spinning air, Naruto-kun. The seriousness of her tone freaked him out a little bit, and she could tell, but she didn't let it bother her. Your chakra mixes with the air, taking up space on the surface of the sphere. The original attack never had space as a factor because, despite Yu Bunshin's method of introducing rotation, it could pretty much be as big as it wanted to sitting on your hand. It auto-sized itself to be as compact as possible with the amount of chakra that you were pouring into it, which made it more powerful than if it had been more loosely put together. Oh, I get it. But what does that have to do? Everything. Because you're trying to add more directions of rotation, you're putting more chakra into the technique, which means that the technique will take up more space. It looked like you and your Bunshin left barely enough space for a normal Rasengan, meaning that your new technique was out of the question. So when Naruto finished processing what she had said, his got the biggest smile that Mabui had ever seen. So all I have to do is give it more room. Yada! Thank you so much, Mabui-chan. Just glad that she could be of help, Mabui smiled on as Naruto got ready to try the technique again. Getting the distance down was not as easy as it sounded, however. Naruto tried for hours, Mabui watching all the while, but he couldn't get the technique to work. If the hands were too far apart, the rotations never met, and if the hands were close enough for the chakra to meet, it would fizzle out after a few seconds. Just as Mabui was getting frustrated, thinking that she had either been wrong or overlooked something, Naruto thought of something. I have an idea, Mabui-chan. He put on a big fox grin. You said that the Rasengan adjusts its size while it's being formed, right? Huh. Yeah, I think so. I'm not a ninja, but that's what it looked like. Can you think of any reason that it couldn't adjust from small to big? She shook her head slowly, trying to grasp his idea. Just watch. He put his hand out just far enough from the Bunshins for a normal-sized Rasengan. As the Rasengan started forming, he and his Bunshin pulled their hands apart. They did it far too quickly, resulting in the technique's dispersal, but Mabui understood his idea. That's a great idea, Naruto-kun. I never would have thought of that. I really wouldn't have. It'll probably throw off your timing a bit, but I'm sure it'll work eventually. Naruto's grin just grew wider. A few hours later, the grin was completely gone. He hadn't even managed to get the separation speed down, let alone the technique. Even Mabui's cheer had visibly fallen several notches. She had been sure that he would get the hang of it quickly, but then again, she didn't really know what quickly meant in the ninja world. Kakashi, watching from his hiding spot, knew exactly what quickly meant in the ninja world. For 5 hours, he had watched Naruto progress more quickly than he could ever have imagined. The boy showed more intuition and determination than the Sannin, Yondaime, and Kakashi combined. Even though he hadn't understood the explanation that Naruto had given, he could tell that Naruto was going to get it within a few days, at the rate he was going. I think that's it for today, Mabui-chan. You're giving up already, Naruto-kun? Of course not. His grin returned. I'll just have to keep trying tomorrow. There's other training I need to do today, and I don't want to fall behind. You have more training? Do you mind if I stay and watch? You want to watch? Why? I don't know, I just do. Her smile finally returned. Do you mind or not? I guess not. Great. We should get some dinner first, though. It can't be healthy for you to train all night without eating. After dinner, Naruto's training amazed Mabui. She knew that ninja had more stamina and strength than normal people, but he was expending more energy than she did in a month, and he didn't even look winded. Naruto, meanwhile, couldn't understand why she would want to watch him repeatedly punch and kick a log, jump rope, and do push-ups, sit-ups, and squats, but she refused to leave unless he said that he specifically didn't want her there. He couldn't bring himself to lie to her, so she stayed. By the time that midnight rolled around, Mabui was still watching. Even she couldn't say exactly what had caused her to stay so long, but she felt no desire to leave. Naruto, finishing his last squat, looked over to her. That's it for today. She smiled at him. Then I'll see you tomorrow. He glared at her suspiciously for a moment. Why are you so interested in me? What do you mean, Naruto-kun? I mean exactly what I asked Mabui-chan. Why are you so interested in me? It's one thing to be willing to help me, but you almost act like there's nothing you'd rather do than hang around me all day. You must have a reason. I don't really know. A big part of it is that you're just fun to be around, and some of it is that you remind me of my dad, but there's just something about you. I can't really explain it, but I feel better being around you. Better about myself, my life, my everything. She stared off into space for a moment before continuing. I guess it's just the kind of person you are. Your attitude, your actions, what you say and how you say it, I can't get enough of you. Naruto, taking this the wrong way, panicked. Kyuso. Why'd she have to fall in love with me? Aside from the fact that she's 7 years older than me, it just seems creepy. Laughing nervously, he tried to let her down easy. Mabui-chan, I don't really like you quite, that way, but... Immediately figuring out what he was thinking, Mabui had a sudden urge to vomit. Something about the idea of Naruto even thinking that she had feelings for him felt sick and wrong. Oh. No, I didn't mean it like that. Seeing his face relax slightly made Mabui much more comfortable. I meant it in a platonic way, like a family member or a really close friend. Oh, thank God, Naruto walked Mabui home, but not before she made him promise to have lunch with her the next day. Kakashi, making a mental note to report a few things to Tsunade in the morning, switched with Hoshi before going to get some sleep. Kakashi really didn't like the way that his meeting had turned out, but he really had no choice about what he was about to do. Although he had tried to assure Tsunade that Mabui's intentions were pure, she demanded to meet the girl. With a sigh, he came out of the shadows. Orders are orders, after all. Yo, Naruto. Kakashi-sensei? What are you doing at Mabui-chan's apartment? Well, Naruto how can I put this so as not to piss him off, I'm actually here to see Mabui. Who, me? Mabui, having only spoken with Kakashi twice, was more than a little surprised. Why? Tsunade-sama asked to see you. I'm supposed to take you as soon as possible. What? Naruto was outraged. Why does Bachan want to see Mabui-chan right now? We were about to go to lunch. Kakashi sighed. This didn't promise to be easy. She just wants to ask Mabui a few questions, Naruto. Seeing Mabui getting worried, he added, It's nothing bad, Mabui-san. She didn't cheer up. I probably shouldn't do this, but why don't you guys have lunch before we go? Mabui looked even more worried. What? I can't let you get in trouble for me. If you keep Hokage-sama waiting, she could. Don't worry about it. Kakashi's eye smiled. I'm pretty well known for being late, and it really isn't that important anyway. I've already told her the answers to all of her questions, she just wants to hear it from you. Oh. She smiled and turned to Naruto. So, Naruto, where do you want to go for lunch? I feel like going to Ichiraku's again, but if you'd rather have something else I wouldn't mind. Naruto, of course, didn't feel like going somewhere else. 20 bowls of ramen, each. Later, Naruto and Mabui had to part ways. Mabui was disappointed that she wouldn't be able to help Naruto with his technique, but she knew that she couldn't oppose the leader of the village. As Kakashi led her in the office, Mabui felt a little anxious. What kind of questions did the Hokage have for her, and why weren't Kakashi's answers satisfactory? Kakashi had made it pretty clear on their first meeting that she had been thoroughly researched, and as a civilian she wasn't exactly a master of hiding things like ninja were. Try as she might, she couldn't think of what questions were coming, which of course meant that she couldn't prepare herself for them. Tsunade's angry voice jerked her out of her thoughts. You're late, Kakashi. Sorry, Tsunade-sama. I was attacked on the way to her apartment by 3 merchants from Wind Country carrying a magic lamp, and... Save your stories for Guy, Kakashi. Where the hell were you? Mabui wasn't really sure that it was a good idea, but she didn't want Kakashi to get in trouble, so she said the first thing that came to her head. It's my fault, Tsunade-sama. Clearly it had been the wrong time to speak, as Tsunade gave her a look somewhere between who asked you. And I will kill you in the most inconceivably horrible and painful way I can think of. Still, in an amazing feat of bravery that few jounin were capable of, she continued to speak in coherent sentences. Kakashi-san told me that you wanted to see me immediately, and that you had important questions to ask me, but I insisted on having lunch first. If you're going to blame anyone, blame me. Nice try, but I know you're lying. Tsunade was bluffing, of course. Mabui's lie had been completely flawless, but Tsunade knew Kakashi too well to believe that he would have said the questions were important. What really happened, Kakashi? It had better not involve Naruto, or so help me I'll. Why can't it have involved Naruto? I'll deal with you in a moment, so I suggest you keep quiet until then. Kakashi, answer the question. Kakashi, who had been interrupted the first 2 times he had tried to answer, waited a moment to make sure that there wouldn't be any interruptions. I allowed her to have lunch with Naruto before coming here, Tsunade-sama. She eats as much ramen as Naruto, actually, which is why it took so long. You let her have lunch with Naruto? I specifically ordered that you not allow her to have contact with Naruto until after I have this talk with her. As it is, with her skill in lying, I'm tempted to have you lock her up just to be safe. If she turns out to be a spy, I'm holding you personally responsible for any. I already told you, Tsunade-sama, she isn't a spy. Kakashi sighed. He really didn't appreciate having his judgment questioned this completely, even if Tsunade was just trying to look out for Naruto. The idea is ridiculous. When she first met Naruto, she practically worshipped the ground he walked on, and that's exactly why it's suspicious, Kakashi. You know as well as I do that the people of this town, especially civilians, hold an irrational hatred of Naruto. She's old enough to know about Kyuubi, so it's absurd for you to trust her because she doesn't hate him. I don't like it any more than you, but that's just. Tsunade stopped speaking as Mabui slapped her in the face. Tsunade had crossed the line, and Mabui wasn't about to let her get away with it. You think that people who recognize a hero can't be trusted? It's absurd to trust me because I don't hate the boy to whom I owe my life. Wow, that really is suspicious. You'd better arrest me now before I start calling Sandaime and Yondaime heroes too, you old hag. Tsunade, still holding her face where Mabui had slapped it, stared at Kakashi in shock. He hadn't been kidding, she really did get angry at people who didn't recognize Naruto as a hero. Overriding her fear of getting slapped again, Tsunade decided to answer the poor girl. I didn't mean it like that. Another slap met her face. Yes, you did. You wouldn't have even felt badly about it if I hadn't pointed out how horrible the idea was. Hell, you were one step from saying that Naruto-kun is better off without friends, because anyone who would associate with him is suspicious. That you could actually think that that's someone Naruto-kun likes and respects as much as you could actually think such a thing about him is horrifying. Even if the villagers are betraying him, at least they aren't doing it from the position of a friend. If she could have gotten away with it, Mabui would have stormed out of the office, but she somehow doubted that the ANBU at the door were left as speechless as the Hokage in front of her. Kakashi, however, was. He merely stared wide-eyed at the idea of someone not only standing up to Tsunade while she was in a bad temper, but slapping her, twice, and living to tell the tale. Tsunade hung her head in shame, realizing how true Mabui's statements were. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I just want what's best for Naruto, and considering the people who are out to get him right now, we really can't afford to be lenient on anyone. Mabui thought for a few moments. Is this about Uchiha Itachi? How do you know that? Even Kakashi adopted a somewhat relaxed, fighting stance at the mention of Itachi. That is the single most classified piece of information in Konoha. There's no way you can possibly know about that group if you're an average civilian. Group? I thought Uchiha Itachi was a single person, not a group. Don't play stupid. You can't possibly know that Itachi is after Naruto unless you know about Akatsuki. Akatsuki? So there's a group called Akatsuki after Naruto, and the perpetrator of the Uchiha massacre is in it? That's why Jiraiya-sama was acting strangely. You know Jiraiya? That changes everything. He never could shut up around cute girls. Mabui suddenly smiled. You really think I'm cute? Kakashi gave her a quick glance before deciding that she had to be kidding. She was easily the most stunningly beautiful girl he had seen in his entire perverted life. Tsunade, thinking along the same lines but with a more jealous twinge, took a moment to respond. If you know Jiraiya, I'm surprised you don't know more about Akatsuki than I do. Mabui left Tsunade's office extremely disappointed. Although she had managed to completely clear her name, she had spent the entire day doing it, finally leaving at midnight. She had no chance to help Naruto develop his technique, and she was most likely not going to get to be there when he finished it. Naruto was fairly disappointed as well. He had finally gotten down the speed at which his hand needed to separate from the bunchins, but the timing was drastically different during the separation than before or after it. If Mabui had been able to come, he was sure that she would have been able to help somehow, but she had never shown up. On Friday, he stopped by the library, and the pair had lunch, but Mabui couldn't think of any way to help Naruto. She did have to work, after all. He had been extremely curious about what Tsunade had wanted, but Mabui didn't tell him anything. Training continued as usual, resulting in Naruto not quite having the technique down, but he was showing plenty of promise. It was on Saturday that Kakashi decided that Jiraiya could take his books and shove them up his well, you know. Naruto, finally succeeding in getting the timings down, had tested his new variation on the Rasengan. To say that it was more powerful than its predecessor would be like saying that a bolt of lightning is more powerful than static cling, in Kakashi's opinion at least. Not only was the tree he attacked completely obliterated, but the impact caused a sphere of destruction at least 20 times as large as the attack itself. The ground was cracked, 15 trees were completely destroyed, and the winds released had knocked over several other trees. Rasengan would have just damaged the main target, and that would have been the end of it. Naruto concluded the day by giving his attack a name, Udama Rasengan, Great Sphere Rasengan. Kakashi concluded the day by leaving a scroll and a note on Naruto's table before Hoshi arrived, hoping against hope that Hoshi didn't notice, and deciding that another talk with Guy would be necessary. As much as I admire his youthful spirit, Kakashi, I can't just. Guy, just listen. Kakashi was interrupting Guy and Lee during their morning training to talk about Naruto, but Guy wasn't in the mood to talk about it again. Still, Kakashi couldn't let himself fail Naruto again, not when the boy was showing so much promise. Naruto is turning out to be some kind of closet genius. From what I've seen, I would bet my life that he'll be Hokage, with or without your help. All I'm asking you to do is give him a little boost to help him improve more quickly. That's not all you're asking me to do, Kakashi. If that was the only thing to consider, I'd have helped him without you asking me. You can't honestly think that I would risk opposing Jiraiya-sama to. You know, Guy, Jiraiya doesn't have to know. How would he not know? Is he supposed to just think that some other teacher gave Naruto giant leg weights that say guts? I could tell Naruto to hide the weights and not mention them to anyone. But then he'll get suspicious, and I'll blow off his questions like I always do. Seeing that Guy was still looking unsure, Kakashi decided to throw in one last incentive. Also, Tsunade-sama will be very happy with anyone who helps Naruto right now. She might even be willing to do that thing you were asking about the other day. Guy's eyes widened. You mean she might? Yup. But if you're too scared of Jiraiya, I guess that you'll never get her to do it. No. I mean the burning passion of youth shall not be doused by the foolishness of elders. Take these, he took off his own weights, to Naruto, and tell him to revel in the springtime of life. He handed the weights to Kakashi, who promptly fell over. Guy, how much do these weigh? About 1,000 pounds, why? Kakashi managed to pick them up off of the ground, but mused that he might have thrown his back out in the process. Don't you think that's a bit much? Naruto's youthful spirit can handle it. Just make sure that Jiraiya never finds out. Yeah, whatever. Kakashi really hadn't been listening for a response, so he had no idea what it was that Guy had said, but he was sure it wasn't worth hearing again. Curse you, Kakashi. Your attitude is hip, which makes you angry, blah 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 later. With that he was gone, leaving an infuriated Guy to his training. When Naruto woke up that morning, he got quite a surprise. A week earlier he wouldn't have even glanced at his table in the morning, but Mabui had impressed on him that eating 3 meals a day could benefit his training, so he made some ramen for breakfast. Sitting down to eat, he found Kakashi's note and scroll. He started with the note, which read, Naruto. You'll have to keep this a secret, but the scroll I left you is a special scroll only accessible by Jounin and the Hokage. In it you'll find instructions for a technique that extends Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Guy probably has something to give you too, I'll have to check. Kakashi. There was a crude drawing of Pakken showing a peace sign in the bottom right corner. Naruto reread the note suspiciously a few times, not sure what to think. The last he remembered, Kakashi and Guy had declined to train him altogether, either giving a real reason. He couldn't imagine any reason for them to change their minds, but he decided to take the help where he could get it. After his customary morning laps, Bunshin sparring tournament, and lunch with Mabui, Naruto headed towards Training Ground 7, only to be stopped by Kakashi. Yo. Kakashi-sensei? Why are you here? Guy had a present for me to give you. He tried to hold the weights out casually, but instead fell over again. I would have been here sooner, but it's hard to run with these things. Naruto looked like he was about to weep with joy. He had wanted to try wearing those weights ever since he had seen Lee remove them during the Chunin exam, and now he had his own pair to work with. From the looks of things, they were even heavier than Lee's too. He was sure to get strong quickly if he used those in his training. Well, what are you waiting for, Naruto? Put them on already. Yoshi! Naruto eagerly reached down to grab the weights, but couldn't quite stand back up. With Kakashi's help, he managed to get the weights on under his pant legs, but was barely able to move his legs at all. Superbrows has weights like this on all the time? How much do these things weigh? That's not important. I am not looking forward to our next sparring match if he doesn't replace them. What is important is that you never let anyone know about the weights, or the scroll I gave you. Guy and I can get in a lot of trouble for this, so. Why? Why what? Why would you get in trouble for training me? Does Bachan hate me now or something? The size of your paycheck should tell you that she doesn't hate you. Anyway, it's not Tsunade-sama, and I really can't tell you any more about it. Later. Naruto was about to ask again, but Kakashi disappeared. He continued, very slowly, on to training ground 7, grumbling about secretive perverts the whole way. Opening the scroll that Kakashi had left for him, Naruto was annoyed to see that it actually looked pretty complicated, but then the name of the technique caught his eye. Bakuretsu Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, exploding shadow clone technique? It explodes? He was able to think of dozens of situations where that ability would be useful in a Bunshin, and instantly knew that it was a perfect technique to go with his style. Still, it looked so complicated. Reading through the scroll, Naruto found that it was complicated. So complicated, in fact, that the author of the scroll had placed a warning and the jutsu rank in bold print, along with an explanation of what the ranks mean. Warning: anyone attempting this technique should know that it is an A-rank ninjutsu, and will be well beyond the capabilities of most jounin. The ranking system is as follows. S rank, beyond the abilities of most kage, most often requiring too much chakra to be practical. Usually never taught because no one can learn other than the creator. A rank, kage or elite jounin level, most likely requiring ridiculous amounts of chakra and or control. B rank, jounin level, difficult to learn and too draining for most chunin to use. C rank, chunin level, most ninja with a few years of field experience can master in a matter of weeks. D rank, genin level, the most basic techniques such as Bunshin no Jutsu and Kawarimi no Jutsu. If you are not a kage or among the best jounin in your village in ninjutsu, it is highly recommended that you not bother to attempt this technique, as it will likely be too difficult for you. Below the warning, Naruto could see that Kakashi had scribbled a little note for him. Naruto, just thought you should know, Chidori is a B-rank technique, and Rasengan is an A-rank. New version of Rasengan that you developed has been classified as S-rank, and the Naruto Senku no Jutsu has been classified as B-rank. Naruto read through the note twice before realizing something very odd. He had skipped straight from genin-level techniques to jounin-level techniques, before getting any field experience. The next thing he realized was that he had never told anyone, even Mabui, about Naruto's Senku no Jutsu. Eventually he reasoned that whatever ANBU had been watching him at the time must have reported it to Tsunade, who in turn told Kakashi. As for why they had bothered to rank his technique, he found he didn't care. After reading through the instructions for the technique, Naruto was fairly confident that he would be able to get the hang of it in a day or two. His hands flew into the boar, dragon, and Kage Bunshin seals. He molded his chakra, and nothing. More accurately, a puff of ninja smoke which quickly cleared to reveal nothing. Not one to be discouraged so easily, Naruto continued to try. Kakashi, watching from his vantage point in the trees, was curious as to just how long it would take Naruto to learn the technique. Kakashi had spent the better part of 2 months mastering the move, because he was unable to find someone to copy it from, only to find that he didn't have the stamina necessary to effectively use it more than 2 or 3 times per day. Naruto, on the other hand, had more than enough stamina to use it 20 times per day. That the move would become an integral part of Naruto's style was obvious. The only variable factor was how long it would be before Naruto started using it, and Kakashi had decided that sooner was better than later. Chikushu. Heal yourself, you stupid rabbit. Sakura had had enough of failing at this jutsu, but she knew that Tsunade wouldn't allow her to progress without it. Having a little trouble, Sakura? Tsunade Shosho, why am I so pathetic? Of all the things that Tsunade would have thought to call Sakura, pathetic wasn't one of them. Hell, the girl was learning more quickly than Tsunade had learned at her age. Where did that come from? Well, it's just I've only managed to learn 3 C-rank jutsu in the time I've been spending with you, and you're a Sannin. Naruto, the dead last of our class, was able to develop his own B-rank jutsu in the same amount of time, and he's working alone. Naruto was the dead last in your class? That's funny. What's funny about it? Oh, just that he was probably only the dead last because of the type of techniques they teach in the academy. What do you mean, Tsunade Shosho? The academy only teaches D-rank jutsu, which are the most basic and easiest to perform, yes. Normally. Naruto is a special case, as far as techniques are concerned. At Sakura's quizzical look, she decided to explain. There is a reason that Naruto's chakra control has always been subpar. From a young age, he's had a chakra capacity far beyond what he should have considering his level and the extent of his training. By the time he was learning to mold chakra, his chakra capacity was probably at about Chunin level. What? How can that be? To be honest, I have no idea where he gets all of that chakra. Many of the more, how should I put this, prejudiced Jounin believe that his extra chakra comes from a certain condition that he has, but I don't think that's true. At any rate, he has the extra chakra, and it affects his chakra control greatly. How would having extra chakra make his control worse? Shouldn't it just mean that he has more to practice with? But therein lies the problem. Sighing, as Sakura obviously didn't understand, Tsunade tried to think of how to explain. The reason that chakra control needs to be taught while chakra capacity is still small is simple. It's easier to control how much of something you let out at a time if you have a small amount to begin with. I wish that Mabui was here to come up with a better example, but all I can think of is... Who? Mabui? Just a friend of Naruto's anyway. The only example I can think of is bladder control. When you learn bladder control, the muscle that holds the liquid in is weak, but the amount of liquid it needs to hold in is relatively small. As you grow older, even though the amount of liquid increases, the strength of the muscle increases, and everything balances out. Yeah, what about it? To put the example in proportion, imagine having that muscle at the strength of a newborn baby's, and a bladder the size of a fully grown man. Oh, so Naruto was a genius all of that time? No. Genius isn't determined by raw potential, it's determined by natural skill. Although even if his chakra levels made D and C rank techniques more difficult, they didn't make B and A rank techniques any easier, so his mastery of Rasengan was definitely. Rasengan? What's that? You don't know? I would have thought you would have seen it at some point. Rasengan is an A rank technique invented by Yondaime. The only people who have ever learned it are Yondaime, Jiraiya, and Naruto. Yondaime spent 3 years developing it, Jiraiya spent 4 months learning it from Yondaime, and Naruto learned it in roughly a week from Jiraiya. A week? That's what I said. I had actually made a bet with Naruto that he wouldn't be able to learn the technique that quickly, and I lost my grandfather's necklace. He learned an A-rank technique in a week and he didn't even gloat about it. It would appear that way. Actually, Kakashi tells me he's already created a new S-rank technique that looks just like the Rasengan, except that it's larger and many times more powerful. S-rank. But S-rank means... Yes, it means that the technique is probably too difficult for most Kage to master. Based on Kakashi's description, though, that rank is appropriate. Getting back to your original question, you aren't pathetic. Naruto is just incredibly gifted and determined, and you can't hope to compete. No one can. You've actually been progressing more quickly than I did at your age, so if you call yourself pathetic again, I'll be tempted to hurt you. Smiling at the revelation that her falling behind wasn't a sign of weakness, Sakura determined to strengthen her resolve and keep up with Naruto. She started towards the rabbit to try to heal it again, but realized she had one more question she had to ask. Tsunade Shosho? What is it now, Sakura? Why bladder control? Couldn't you have used a floodgate or a dam or something? I'm a medic, not an engineer. If you want better examples, then get Mabui in here before you ask questions. When Kakashi arrived at Ichiraku's to take over the next day, he was greeted by a very happy Hoshi. Apparently the new weights were just a bit too much for Naruto, as they had slowed his lap time from 2 minutes and 15 seconds to over an hour. Hoshi didn't know about the weights, and he didn't care enough to investigate, but Kakashi got a little nervous at such a drastic change. Several days passed before Naruto started to get used to the extra weight. By the end of the week he was back up to 5 laps per hour, which meant 25 laps per day. His technique wasn't going quite so well, but Kakashi wasn't really expecting him to get it within a week anyway. Mabui found Naruto's sudden lack of ability to run or jump slightly disconcerting, but he told her that it was part of a new secret training regimen, and that it would make him stronger, so she let it go. When she saw that the size of his daily lunch had doubled, she knew that he had to be working hard, and she didn't want to question his training unless she was sure that he was doing something unhealthy. By the following Wednesday, Naruto was able to make bunshin that could explode, but the explosions were so small that he doubted they could really hurt anything. Mabui insisted on watching his training on Wednesdays and Thursdays, something he didn't object to, so she got to see the completed Urama Rasengan demonstrated on some unsuspecting trees. To say that she was surprised by the power of the attack would be an understatement, and she found herself filling with pride in Naruto, and in herself for helping him. It was on Friday that Sakura began to get over her jealousy enough to be worried for Naruto. Her teammate had seemed very depressed in the hospital after his failed mission, Then he had turned around and become even more determined to keep his promise, and then he stopped talking to her for 6 weeks. It was unlike Naruto to stop talking to her for 2 days, let alone 6 weeks. Something was clearly wrong, and she needed to know what. Tsunade Shosho? What is it, Sakura? Did you get that technique down already? No, it's not that I'm worried about Naruto. He hasn't spoken to me in 6 weeks, which is really weird for him, and you want to check on him personally, don't you? Well, yeah. He is my teammate, after all. Is that really the only reason you want to see him? What do you mean? Of course it is. Tsunade allowed herself a little laughter at that. Alright then, if you say so. What do you have in mind? I was thinking, if it's not too big of a problem, could you maybe get the Team Kurenai and Team Asuma the day off tomorrow? And Team Guy? You want me to take 9 ninja off duty for a day to check up on one person? In other words, the 9 people his age that might be able to convince him to slow down. She must not understand just yet. Okay. What? Just like that? Of course. It's just one day, and they're all in town anyway. Besides, I feel like I owe Naruto something, and this'll be good for him. And you. With that decided, Sakura went off in search of the other 9 who she hoped would accompany her the next day. Naruto, meanwhile, was finally getting the jutsu down. He had used the technique several times, and he was sure that he was doing it correctly. Although it bothered him that what the scroll described as ridiculous amounts of chakra turned out to be less chakra than he had used to beat Mizuki, he supposed that it could be draining if used 100 or 200 times. As he still had time before the library's closing time, he decided to work on another original technique that he had been thinking about. As the library was about to close, Naruto found himself in a new predicament. The scroll he was reading was being surprisingly helpful, and he had a large stack of scrolls next to him that he wanted to read, but he wanted to take them to the training grounds with him for quicker reference. Running back and forth between the library and the training grounds seemed like more of a hassle than it needed to be, especially with Guy's weights. Mabui-chan? What is it, Naruto-kun? Is it alright if I borrow these scrolls? I'll bring them back, Sure, you can check them out. Do you have your library card? Library card? What's that? You're kidding. You don't know what a library card is? We've got to get you one right away. Why, what is it? Mabui, already filling out the paperwork to get Naruto's card, looked up at him as though trying to determine whether it was possible that he was actually standing there. After a moment, she explained the purpose of a library card to him, which caused his eyes to widen. You mean people can just take stuff for weeks at a time for free? And all they have to do is get one of those cards? That's the purpose of the library, Naruto-kun. She shoved some papers at him. Sign here, here, and here. As he did so, she pulled out a library card that the machine had just finished making for him. Here you go. Now we just need to check out your scrolls, and you're free to go. Wow. Thanks, Mabui-chan. When Naruto finally got back to the training grounds, he did the most annoying thing Kakashi could imagine. He sat and read quietly. Kakashi had, of course, been hoping to watch Naruto develop another incredible technique. He had been so expectant, in fact, that he had left his perverted novels at home. All that he had left for entertainment was Naruto, who was reading actually. As Kakashi thought about it, he had no idea what Naruto was reading. Moving to another tree for a better look at the scroll in Naruto's hands, Kakashi almost face-faulted out of the tree. Naruto was reading a stack of scrolls that would be better suited to a first-year academy student. After mentally preparing himself for an extremely boring night, Kakashi settled himself in a tree and began the struggle to keep his eye open. Thanks again for coming, guys. Of course, Sakura-san. I would hate to see Naruto-kun's youthful spirit be tainted by the same lust for power that drove Sasuke-kun away. Everyone's sweat dropped, but secretly had the same reason for coming. So, Forehead Girl, he honestly hasn't even tried to contact you in 6 weeks. No, he hasn't. From what Kakashi-sensei and Tsunade Shosho have been saying, I think he's spent the entire time in some kind of super intense training regimen. The part that worries me the most, though, is that his new best friend is the head librarian. Everyone stopped dead at Sakura's words. After a few moments of silence, Shikamaru decided that he couldn't resist asking an important question. How serious were those injuries from Sasuke again? A few more moments of silence went by. Apparently they had all thought it was a sarcastic question. I'm serious. Tsunade Shosho said that he sustained a mortal wound to the stomach, and his left arm looked torn up on the inside, but those injuries healed, and other than that there was nothing wrong with him. And we're sure she's the best medic available? His comment earned him a rather hard punch to the back of the head, but he had expected it. As they entered the main clearing of Training Ground 7, they saw Naruto doing something they would never have associated with Naruto: reading. Super intense training regimen, huh? He's probably just inventing another technique. The reply came from everyone around her at the same time. Another? Yes, another, but I probably shouldn't tell you guys about the first two. That's really up to Naruto. The group walked up to Naruto, everyone wondering exactly what it was that he was reading. As Naruto hadn't noticed them, and Sakura was taking a remarkably long time to point out their presence to him, Ino took a peek at the title of the scroll. She face-faulted. Basics of Chakra Molding? What kind of idiot are you? They gave us this scroll in our first year at the academy. Naruto looked up to see his 10 visitors. He also saw that most of them seemed to agree with what Ino had said, even Lee, who could never have managed any of the exercises on the scroll anyway. I was just checking to see if it had anything that would help me with my new technique. It's going to. Ino pig. Don't you have any manners at all? You don't just walk up to someone you're trying to help and call them an idiot. I can't help it if he's an idiot, forehead girl. Being dead last is one thing, but having to reread academy material? How he ever beat Kiba and Neji is a mystery to me. If you're quite done, we are here for a reason. Neji didn't want to have to deal with a fight between two loud girls, so he decided to save some time. Could we please get back to it? Sakura's interest instantly returned to the still-seated Naruto. Oh, right. Naruto, we're here to take you to lunch. Why? Naruto really couldn't think of any reason that the group would want to take him to lunch. It seemed extremely suspicious to him that they would suddenly take an interest in him, not to mention that he had promised to meet Mabui at Ichiraku's. Because, Naruto, you've been working too hard. Everyone, including Shino, was surprised that Shino had been the one to voice that. Somehow, despite the shocked faces, he forced himself to finish his thought. Sakura, Lee, Neji, Kiba, and Ino have expressed worry that you are becoming too obsessive, and the rest of the group seems to share the sentiment. He's right, Naruto. You're being too troublesome. Shikamaru didn't really want to become a part of the conversation, but he knew it was inevitable. Reasoning that it was less troublesome to involve himself than to be prodded by Ino, he forced himself to say something that he knew he would regret. Just come eat lunch with us after lunch. I might even let you play a game of Shugi with me. Shugi with Naruto had really been Ino's idea, which was the only reason that Shikamaru knew he couldn't get out of it. He actually liked Naruto as a friend, but he couldn't imagine the blonde being any good at the game. What's Shugi? You don't know how to play Shugi? Receiving a death glare from Ino, he decided to take the least troublesome path. I could teach you. I guess it's just a board game, in answer to your question. I don't have time for games. What about my training? Naruto, we're trying to get you away from your training for a day. Tenten really didn't think that Naruto would leave the village, but she had a much more powerful worry. You don't want to end up like Lee and Gai-sensei, do you? She decided to ignore Lee's indignant look, as his response was cut off by Naruto's. You think I'm getting as strong as Super Brows? Yada! As Naruto started jumping up and down, screaming Yada! Over and over, everyone's sweat dropped. That's not what I meant, Naruto. Naruto instantly stopped his celebration, looking extremely disappointed. Naruto, you can't spend all of your time training. Ino was getting seriously tired of the conversation. Just come get lunch with us and we'll go from there, okay? But I was going to meet Mabui-chan. Who? Looking around, Ino could tell that no one in the group, with the possible exception of Sakura, had ever met anyone named Mabui. Mabui-chan. Well, that clears things up. And Naruto finally noticed that Hinata was also in the clearing, hiding behind everyone else, with a face as red as a ripe tomato. Why don't we just go with you to meet Mabui-san? Naruto tried to think of some valid reason that they wouldn't be able to come, but he couldn't. Okay, but you guys had better be nice to Mabui-chan. Seeing them all nod in agreement, he picked up his scrolls and began to exit the training grounds. Naruto, would you hurry up? Ino pig, I told you to stop being so rude. If you act like that around. Naruto-kun? Are you alright? Lee, having experience with debilitating injuries himself, was genuinely concerned. You didn't tear muscles, did you? Eh? Oh, the way, that's nothing, don't worry about it. He put on a big grin, hoping that it would rid them of suspicion. But it looks like you're having trouble walking. It's just part of my training. Naruto really wasn't sure if he was supposed to keep the secret from Lee, too, but if Lee didn't know, Naruto wasn't going to tell him. Hi Naruto-kun. Who are all of your friends? Mabui looked around at the group, a little surprised that Naruto had brought company. What really seemed odd to her was that all of the boys appeared to be drooling, except for the boy with no pupils who had immediately shut his eyes upon seeing her. He decided to go from left to right. This is Hyuga Neji, Tenten, Rock Lee, Hyuga Hinata, Inuzuka Kiba, Abirame Shino, Sakura-chan, Nara Shikamaru, Akimichi Chuji, and it starts with a Y, I think. Ino, looking angrier than anyone could ever remember seeing her, took her introduction upon herself. I'm Yamanaka Ino. She forced a smile as she said it, which resulted in her looking like a sleepy serial killer. Yeah, that was it. He gestured to Mabui. This is Mabui-chan. I don't know why, but they insisted on coming, so. Maybe they're just realizing what a cool person you are, Naruto-kun. At everyone's surprised looks, she almost took it back. The quickest to recover was, of course, Shikamaru, who decided to ask another question. How old are you? He was immediately punched in the back of the head by Ino, Sakura, and Tenten all at the same time, causing him to fall over on the ground. He decided that wasn't nearly as scary as their shouting in unison. You idiot! Don't ask a woman her age. No, it's okay, I really don't mind. Mabui, who had never understood that rule anyway, didn't mind divulging her age. I'm 20 years old. Why do you ask, Shikamaru-kun? Shikamaru stood back up and dusted himself off. I've just never heard of anyone more than 4 years older than Naruto that didn't dislike him when they first met him. Mabui's face got a look of deepest loathing for a moment, but quickly changed back to her normal, cheery expression. That's because they're idiots, and they're missing out. Anyways, it's nice to meet all of you. If you're friends of Naruto-kun, I'm sure you're all great people. Would you all care to sit down? There was some generally affirmative mumbling, and everyone either sat down or leaned on the counter. So how's that new technique coming, Naruto? Not as well as I was hoping, but… Naruto, you've got to be kidding. No matter how hard Ino tried, she couldn't imagine Naruto having less of a life. You talk about training on your lunch break? Do you ever take an actual break? Why would I want to waste time? Besides, Mabui-chan only ever seems to want to talk about my training anyway. And whose fault is that? She probably doesn't feel comfortable talking about anything else because you're so obsessed, and… That's not true. I really do like talking about his training. Everyone stared at Mabui for a while, thinking that she was one of the weirdest people they had ever met, but no one said anything. So, what were you saying about your technique? Well, it's not going quite as well as I hoped it would, but I at least know what some of the problems are. The hardest part will probably be getting my chakra to continue to apply the same amount of centripetal force constantly after it leaves my hand, but I also have to consider… Whoa, wait a minute! Did I just hear Naruto talking about centripetal force? Remembering all of the time that she had spent with Naruto, Sakura felt fairly confident saying that his intellectual capacity was not one of his strong points. Since when does Naruto know anything about physics? Since Mabui-chan explained it all to me and found books and scrolls for me to read, Sakura-chan. Anyway, Mabui-chan, I also have to consider… Naruto, you're not supposed to do any more training today, remember? Ino was making an honest effort to be polite, if for no other reason than not having a fight with Sakura in front of their new acquaintance. I'm not gonna fall behind on my training just because you guys are being weird. If I skimp on my training, I'll never be able to bring Sasuke back. Naruto-kun? Don't you think you could indulge your friends for one day? Mabui-chan. Not you too. I don't really think you're going too far with your training, but your friends are worried about you. The least you could do is give them less reason to worry, even if you have to sacrifice a half day of training. Well, alright, I guess. Finally, Ichiraka came to get the group's orders. Ino, Sakura, Hinata, and Tenten all ordered 1 bowl of miso ramen, not wanting to gain any weight. Neji got 2 bowls of pork ramen, Lee 3 bowls of pork, just to outdo Neji. Kiba and Shino both ordered 2 bowls of miso, Shikamaru got 1 bowl of pork, and Chuji got 2 of each kind on the menu. When it finally came to Naruto, he ordered 5 pork, 5 teriyaki chicken, and 10 miso. Naruto's order didn't surprise his friends nearly as much as Mabui's order, which consisted of 10 pork, 5 teriyaki chicken, and 5 miso. In other words, Mabui was planning on eating as much ramen as Naruto. Probably the weirdest part of the whole experience was that Mabui finished her ramen before Naruto did. She waited until he finished, the whole 5 seconds, and then headed back to the library to continue her shift. Seeing that his friends had yet to finish their ramen, although how it was possible to eat that slowly escaped him, he tried to sneak away to the training grounds, but they saw him and made him sit back down. Naruto, we already told you we aren't going to let you train anymore today. Just relax and be glad for the time off. Okay, but only because Mabui-chan thought it would be a good idea. Yada! Ino was punching the air for some reason, but no one found it odd. I guess that means you'll spend the rest of the afternoon playing shugi with Shikamaru. Shikamaru shuddered, but she didn't notice. Actually, I have a question to ask you guys. What is it, Naruto? How long do I have to get ready for the next Chunin exam? At this, everyone exchanged dark looks. Sakura was the only one who knew why, but they all knew that his training was being hampered, and that the reason would probably prevent him from entering the exams. There are 10 weeks left, but I wouldn't get my hopes up if I were you. I only have 10 weeks? But I've only finished learning 3 techniques. I'm gonna have to get more serious about my training. More serious? Are you crazy? Forehead, you don't have to scream. Yes, I do. He's already doubled his speed and strength, and invented 1 B rank and 1 S rank ninjutsu. If he gets any more serious, he's going to kill himself. Those in the group that knew the ranking system, Neji, Hinata, and Tenten, went wide-eyed, while Naruto just adopted a suspicious glare. How do you know about my techniques? Naruto, please. I'm the Hokage's apprentice, and you're my teammate. It would be ridiculous to think that I don't hear all about what you're up to. You mean to tell me, Tenten took a deep breath, that Naruto, the one sitting at the counter right over there, invented an S-rank ninjutsu? Sakura nodded. You do know what S-rank means, right? Sakura nodded again. What, how, who told you it was S-rank? Tsunade Shosho. As if merely to defy the laws of physics, Neji's, Tenten's, and Hinata's eyes went even wider. She didn't really tell me what it does, though. Kiba couldn't take being left out of the loop anymore. What's an S-rank ninjutsu? Would you people speak plain Japanese, please? Oh, you don't know about the ninjutsu rankings? S-rank means, damn it, Naruto. Stop trying to sneak off. Naruto sat back down, mumbling something about only a little. S-rank means that it's too difficult for most Kage to learn, and it requires an ungodly amount of chakra, to the point where most people wouldn't be able to use it effectively in an actual fight. All of the eyes that hadn't widened quickly corrected themselves. S-rank techniques are usually never taught, because not many people have the skill or the power to use them. Naruto created one? He turned to Naruto, a look of disbelief obvious on his face. I'll believe it when I see it. Naruto's face lit up in a grin. You'll see it at the Chunin exams, dog boy. Unless you're afraid to come. Naruto? About the Chunin exam, Sakura hated being the bearer of bad news, but she was probably the only one who could tell him. I wouldn't get my hopes up, if I were you. What do you mean, Sakura-chan? I was in the finals last time, I'm sure that. Things have changed a little. Since Jiraiya has been threatening all of the Jounin not to train you, I doubt that Kakashi-sensei will have the courage to submit your name. Even if he does, we still need another person, so. Ero-sennin is the reason I couldn't get a teacher? Why wouldn't anyone tell me? Naruto stood up and started shouting about pervert cheaters, and it took his friends 10 minutes to calm him down. When he finally did calm down, Sakura took the opportunity to switch the subject. A few minutes later, they were entering Shikamaru's house. Unfortunately, his mother was home, and she spotted Naruto. Shikamaru, what is that thing doing in our house? He looked around for a minute. What thing? She pointed at Naruto, causing everyone to raise an eyebrow. Naruto? Yes. I told you a long time ago not to associate with him. Why is he in our house? Her use of air quotes was, quite possibly, the most childish thing he had ever seen from her. I was about to teach him to play shugi. Shikamaru had always thought his mother's orders to be troublesome and pointless, and had completely ignored her when she told him not to speak, play, or fight with Naruto. As far as he had been concerned, Naruto was just another guy, which made the way his mother was referring to Naruto all the more perturbing. You were going to play games with him? She couldn't quite find the words to describe how wrong it was without mentioning Kyuubi, but she knew that she needed to try. Unfortunately, for her at least, she wasn't good with words. Get that thing out of my house. It's a terrible influence, and I don't want you speaking to it ever again. Did I just hear what I thought I heard? Shirkato walked into the room looking very angry, a side of him that Shikamaru couldn't remember ever having seen. Oh. Shirkato, I didn't know you were home. Shikamaru knew for a fact that he had never seen his father stand up to his mother, nor had he ever seen his mother back down from anything. For the life of him, though, he couldn't figure out why they were acting so strangely. Shikamaru, take your friends upstairs. Your mother and I need to have a talk. Rather than question the turn of events, Shikamaru took the least troublesome path. Before anyone knew it, They were all crowded into Shikamaru's room, watching him explain Shugi to Naruto. After 3 explanations and a demonstration, Naruto thought he had a good understanding of how to play, so they began. 3 moves later, it was obvious to Shikamaru that Naruto had no idea what he was doing. "Naruto, you can't move that there, it's suicidal." "I have a plan, just let me try it." Shikamaru decided to let Naruto try whatever his plan was, as he knew the game wouldn't be a challenge even if Naruto played normally. Or at least, he thought he knew. By the 15th move, everyone was watching the game with rapt attention, even though most had only stayed because they feared Ino's wrath. No one could figure out exactly what Naruto's strategy was, or if there were multiple strategies, or if he even had a strategy, but he was playing amazingly well. While Shikamaru's turns averaged taking about 90 seconds, Naruto's turns averaged about 3. Off to the side, the wagering pool was closed after the 20th turn. Shikamaru was in his thinking pose, realizing that he was having the hardest game of his life. How Naruto could possibly be that good in his first game, the super genius had no idea, but he was starting to question Naruto's status as a dead last. Not only were Naruto's moves quick, they were completely unpredictable and disturbingly well thought out. Every time that Shikamaru tried a new strategy, it was like Naruto had been waiting for him to try that strategy from the start. When the end of the match came, everyone was surprised except for Naruto, who was complaining that Shikamaru had obviously let him win. Hinata collected all of the money from the pool, and even she hadn't actually expected Naruto to win. Naruto tried to sneak out to go train while they weren't paying attention, but was caught by Ino. The group forced him to wait, while Chuji went to get Asuma, something that Naruto really wasn't looking forward to. When Shikamaru explained to Asuma that he had lost the game of Shugi to Naruto, the cigarette actually fell from the man's mouth. He just stood there, mouth agape, until Ino punched him on the arm. Finally Asuma waved it off, saying that it was impossible for anyone to beat Shikamaru, let alone Naruto. In honor of Asuma's statement, they forced Naruto to have a rematch with Shikamaru. Although he considered losing on purpose just to get out of the whole thing, Naruto ended up playing seriously, complaining that Shikamaru was letting him win periodically throughout the match. When Naruto won again, Asuma refused to believe it, claiming that it had been staged. Naruto wasn't particularly eager to prove anything to Asuma, as he had already tired of the game, but he still ended up playing a third round. At the very least, he was glad that the third game finished much more quickly than the 2 before it, Asuma being totally crushed. Finally they allowed Naruto to leave, but only after he promised that he would not only refrain from training for the rest of the day, he would also meet them at the same time the next Saturday. Not many of them liked the idea, but Ino and Sakura were disturbingly persuasive. An extremely defeated Naruto headed home to at least read some more from the scrolls he had borrowed. That was interesting. What did you think, Asuma-sensei? I have absolutely no idea, Ino. I don't get it. When the hell did that idiot become so smart? Well, now that I think about it, Sakura suddenly remembered all of the plans that she had seen Naruto enact mid-battle. Our first real fight was with an S-rank missing nin from the hidden mist named Zabuza. When Zabuza captured Kakashi-sensei, Naruto came up with and executed a plan to get Kakashi-sensei free. Asuma's eyes widened a little bit at the mention of Zabuza. Kakashi never mentioned that he had help from his team. Then there was the fight with those genin from Hidden Rain, where he came up with a plan to trick them into canceling their genjutsu prematurely. Oh, he also came up with a pretty good strategy when he fought Yu Kiba. What? He didn't have a strategy. Oh, so you punched out your dog for the hell of it? Kiba glared at her, but Sakura continued to think. During his fight with you, Neji, he tricked you into letting your guard down after you attacked his bunshin. He also tricked you at the end of the fight. I wasn't conscious when he defeated Gaara, but... Naruto defeated Gaara? When the hell was that? During the sand/sound invasion. I only know about it because I thanked Sasuke for saving me, and he said it was Naruto that beat Gaara. Like I said though, I was unconscious, so I have no idea how he did it. After that, when we had to fight the Rain Genin again on a mission, he had his Kage Bunshin rotate the water with chakra to make a little vortex. The only other fight that I was around for was when Naruto fought Sasuke on the roof of the hospital. Other than using a little swirling wind ball to keep Sasuke's fire ball from killing him, I don't remember Naruto using any strategy. So we've got 6, maybe 7 incidents where he used incredible strategies, and the rest of his life he was a complete idiot. Shikamaru, trying to make sense out of the number 1 ninja in surprising people, was developing a terrible headache. Well, regardless of his abilities, his training obsession seems a bit unhealthy. Asuma-sensei, how could you ever imply that training with the burning passion of youth is unhealthy? If anything is unhealthy, it's those cigarettes you smoke all of the time. Hey, they're not that bad. Well, yes they are, but that's not the point. No, it's not. The point is that Sasuke already left me because he was obsessed with power, and now Naruto's even worse about it. Sakura, I doubt that Naruto would leave the village. Tenten was not prepared to deal with Sakura crying. Not only would it kill his dream of becoming Hokage, it would defeat the purpose of getting the power. Naruto can't bring Sasuke back if Naruto is also a Chunin. Sakura wiped the tears out of her eyes. I guess you're right, thanks, Tenten. Still, he does seem to have a power obsession, and it probably isn't healthy to train quite as much as he seems to do. We know how many hours per day he trains. Kakashi said 18 minus meal breaks. 18. Guy-sensei, and I only train 16 hours per day, and that's between missions. How can his body tolerate that? He got a hopeful look on his face, as though he was considering adding 2 hours to his training day, which Sakura took as her cue to crush that idea completely. Tsunade Shusho says that his body shouldn't be able to tolerate it. Her guess is that his body is actually being heavily damaged while he trains, but then he heals himself up and keeps going. But Naruto-kun isn't a medic Nin H. How can he heal his own wounds? Tsunade Shusho isn't entirely sure about that either. She says it might be the result of something that she can't tell me about, or it might just be a byproduct of his own enormous chakra. Whatever the reason, he can apparently heal just about anything overnight, and channeling his chakra to the damaged area seems to speed the healing up. So Guy-sensei and I would probably end up killing yourselves if you tried to keep up with Naruto. Lee looked crushed, which Sakura took as assurance that he wouldn't try it. Anyway, we need to think of a way to get him to slow down a little bit. Why? What do you mean why? It's not healthy to train your body to the point where it falls apart. Besides, his training will probably be more effective if he slows down enough that he doesn't have to keep healing himself. But Sakura-san, the process of getting stronger is just the muscles breaking down and rebuilding, so the same principle. Shut up, Lee. Forehead's right, we can't just let him keep up something so dangerous. Let's think about this logically, shall we? Shikamaru was getting a little tired of the pointless bickering. If Naruto continues to train the way he has been training, what are the benefits? His healing ability will probably become more efficient from practice, his chakra capacity will increase more quickly from the extra strain, and he'll get the benefits of the actual training time. Now for the negatives, the only one we've listed so far is that, if it weren't Naruto, it would be a potentially lethal process. I guess we could also add that his mental state will become less stable as he has less human contact, but from the sound of things that Mabi person is maintaining daily contact with him, this whole thing is too troublesome. We should just leave him alone. We can't do that. I'm sure there's something we're missing that makes it obvious that he should slow down. How about we wait until it's not missing anymore? No, Shikamaru, I have a bad feeling about all of this too. You should all try to get him to let up at least a little bit. Enough that he isn't destroying and rebuilding his body on a regular basis. Asuma, so troublesome. Remind me why I'm here again. Because Kiba, Naruto needs the support of all of his friends. But I don't even agree with what you're trying to do, Sakura. If he can handle the training and he's not going to run away from Konoha, he should just keep doing whatever works. Sighing, Sakura realized that she had no choice but to tell them. Alright guys, listen up. The real reason that we all need to do this is that Tsunade Shusho has taken Anbu and Kakashi-sensei off of watching Naruto. I'm supposed to report his progress in his training to her every week, and the easiest way for me to find out how he's doing is for us to all meet like this every week. She decided not to tell them that it was only because of her own obsession with Naruto's training that Tsunade had agreed to her idea. Of course, there was no real need to keep Anbu on him anyway, as long as he thought they were on him. Wait, you mean we're spies now? Sort of. Does that mean that we don't have to try to convince him not to? No. For crying out loud, stop asking. As they walked up to the edge of the clearing, they saw Naruto form a Kage Bunshin. Not wanting to interrupt whatever he was doing, they just watched. Naruto was clearly audible, so they listened as well. Okay, so if we go 50 feet from the target, Naruto and his Bunshin walked backward a few feet, the power shouldn't dilute at all. The Bunshin began swirling chakra in Naruto's hand until he had a normal Rasengan, and then it dispelled in a cloud of smoke. Naruto pointed his hand at the tree, took a deep breath, and closed his eyes. Opening his eyes, Naruto screamed Rasengan Dangon, Spiral Blast Bullet. The others just watched in awe as the Rasengan shot from his hand and was almost instantly embedded in the tree he had been targeting, the trunk of which was quickly ripped to shreds before a small explosion of power came out the opposite side of the tree. While Naruto was celebrating the success of his newest technique, his friends were in shock. The technique he had just used, Rasengan Dangon, was by far the most powerful ranged attack any of them had ever seen. Every piece of tree trunk that had come into contact with the Rasengan was completely disintegrated, and the attack had moved through the air so quickly that, even with the first 5 gates open, Lee knew it would be a difficult attack to dodge. By the time they had all regained their senses, they were surprised to see that Naruto again had a look of concentration on his face. Apparently he wasn't quite done. Forming a Kage Bunshin, Naruto picked another tree that had plenty of neighbors. We can probably back up to about 75 feet. The effect is supposed to last for 500, so we might as well make sure it won't crap out on us. Slightly disappointed that Naruto was just adding distance to his attack, his friends prepared to come out and greet him, only to see his Bunshin act completely different than the first time. Wanting to see exactly what was going to happen, Sakura held out her hands to stop everyone from entering the training ground. Naruto and his Bunshin formed the Udama Rasengan and aimed it at the target. While they were still trying to figure out what the difference was between this Rasengan and the one before, other than size, Naruto decided he was ready to try his technique. Udama Dangon, Great Sphere Bullet. Although it was covering a larger distance, the Udama Rasengan seemed to hit its target much more quickly. Naruto's friends probably would have been impressed by that, if it hadn't been for the sheer destructive power the technique proved capable of upon hitting the tree. Even Naruto was somewhat surprised by just how much the Dangon effect increased the power of his technique. The sphere of destruction created by this technique was at least twice as large as that of its predecessor, and it spread out in all directions, while the other had only spread out in the direction of the thrust. Watching Naruto's attack disintegrate everything within 25 feet of the point of impact, while uprooting a half-dozen trees on the edge of that area just to send them flying into other trees, breaking in half on impact, could only be described with one word. Scary. Not horror movie scary, or axe murderer scary, but the sort of indescribable scary that they had once attributed to Gaara. As far as any of them could tell, Naruto had just created an attack that would kill virtually anyone, regardless of their defenses, with an indirect hit. The Genin and Shikamaru cautiously made their way into the training ground, not quite sure how to act around their friend at the moment, while said friend danced around in celebration. When Naruto spotted the gathering at the edge of the clearing, he stopped mid-cheer. "Oh, is that today? Naruto, I demand that you teach me that technique." "Dream on, dog boy. You couldn't do that technique even if I taught you how. Can you guys not have a fight right now?" Everyone looked over at Ino. "As fun as it would be to watch Naruto kick your ass, Kiba, I'm hungry." "He wouldn't kick my ass." "I'm sorry, did you not see the technique he used just a moment ago? I'm pretty sure that technique could take down Tsunade-sama in one shot." Naruto looked a little flustered. I don't know about that. If she used that seal on her forehead, she'd kick my ass with or without that technique." "Seal on her, that little dot is a seal. I always thought it was some kind of religious thing." "Okay, can we just go eat now? I feel like I'm gonna die if I don't get some ramen soon." Medic Nin instincts taking over, Sakura was on Naruto with a diagnostic jutsu before he realized she had moved. Sakura-chan? You're okay, but you really do need nourishment." Finally noticing the stares directed at her, she added, "So, we should go right away." By the time Naruto opened his mouth to ask a question, Sakura was in a sprint towards Ichiraku's. Much to Naruto's chagrin, everyone else followed suit, leaving him and his ridiculous weights far behind. When Naruto fell far enough behind everyone else to arouse suspicion, he decided to show off the results of his training. Forming the rabbit and sheep seals, Naruto yelled Naruto Senki no Jutsu. Suffice it to say that Lee, who had been winning the race, was more than a little surprised when Naruto suddenly pulled into the lead. By the time he got to Ichiraku's, Naruto was completely worn out, so he ordered twice as much as usual. When Ino, who lost the race, arrived at the scene, Naruto had finished his meal. As the others' orders arrived, Lee felt a nagging urge to ask a question. "Naruto-kun, your speed back there was incredible. How did you gain so much speed in such a short amount of time?" "Actually, I can go a lot faster than that. If I take the damned weights off. He adopted his sheepish grin. "It's just hard work." Lee struck a nice guy pose, but Neji just shook his head. "Impossible. You would have to have worked harder than Lee to improve your speed that much in that short a time, but you were spending large portions of your time on ninjutsu as well." Naruto's grin just got bigger. Sakura took the opportunity to tell Naruto that he was going to have to meet them every Saturday, which resulted in his lengthy, childish argument. With Ino and Sakura working together, however, Naruto lost horribly. After a while, Sakura realized that something was off. "Naruto, where's Mabui-san?" "Eh? Oh, I asked Mabui-chan not to come today, since you guys are going to be..." "What? You jerk. I was looking forward to getting to know her. Ino elbowed Sakura in the ribs, mouthed remember the plan, and went back to her ramen. Sakura, still angry that Naruto didn't think them good enough to mingle with Mabui, went back to her ramen as well. So, Naruto, what was that attack? Ino really hoped that question didn't sound too stupid, as the name pretty much gave away what the attack was, but Naruto didn't seem to care. What, Dangon? Seeing everyone nodding, he continued. Just a projectile version of Rasengan and Udama Rasengan. And what are those? I thought you guys didn't want me to think about my training? We're curious, that's all. So, what's a Rasengan? Naruto eyed her suspiciously for a few moments, but seemed to decide that she was serious. Rasengan is an A-rank ninjutsu that Erosenin spent about a month teaching to me when we were looking for Bachan. Budama. Tsunade Shusho told me it only took you about a week. Oh, she told you about the bet? He pulled out the necklace and held it up, grinning. The week was just for the last step. I spent 3 weeks on the first step and a few days on the second step, and the third step took me about a week. So what's all this Udama crap? Ino and Sakura had decided beforehand to alternate speaking, hoping that it would disorient him and cause him to live more in the moment. Udama Rasengan is my improvement on the Rasengan. His grin grew wider with each passing moment. It's way more powerful than Yandame's stupid thing. How long did it take you to make it, Naruto? About a week. Naruto had to hold his hands over his ears to block out the collective voice, as everyone said at the same time, a week. Yeah, I know, I didn't think that it would take nearly that long, but… Naruto, Tsunade Shusho said that your Udama Rasengan is an S-rank jutsu. It would have taken any normal person years. Well, I don't have years, so I did it in a week. Everyone just stared at him like he belonged in a lunatic asylum. Are you saying, Naruto, that you were able to invent the technique more quickly than anyone else would be able to just because you felt you needed to? Yeah, he started to look at Ino like she might have been crazy. If I'm gonna save Sasuke, I need as many good techniques as I can make in the next 3 years. I don't have time to waste, so I just keep reminding myself of why I need to have the technique, and it comes easier. He let out a sheepish laugh. Just like everything else. Naruto Sakura wasn't exactly sure what to say. The plan hadn't accounted for the possibility that he considered the drive to save Sasuke to be the source of his strength. I told you, we'll save Sasuke together, you don't have to do all of the work. Don't you think you could tone down your training just a little? I already did. What? When? When I agreed to take off Saturday afternoons and nights. Everyone face faulted. I meant other than. Forehead girl, let it go. I want to hear more about his Dangon thing. They continued on through lunch talking about Naruto's accomplishments and strengths, but the plan didn't seem to be working. If anything, Naruto seemed to get more determined to train harder, something that even Lee didn't really want. When Naruto explained some of the details and power of Rasengan and Dangon, every eye went wide, but other than that it was a total waste of time. After lunch was over, Shikamaru, really Ino, had another idea for Naruto, Go. Naruto had never played Go before, but he turned out to be a natural at that too. Using unpredictable strategies that Shikamaru had never seen before, Naruto easily won several games. The worst part of losing was that, although he didn't know how, Naruto seemed to have some intuitive knowledge of exactly what he was planning, and each of Naruto's strategies could easily be adapted into another on a moment's notice. Finally, when Naruto went home, another argument about how to convince Naruto to relax more occurred. In the end, Shikamaru suggested they not bother to plan anything, since Naruto seemed to have a sense for when people were planning something anyway. No one listened. Tsunade Shusho? Tsunade looked up from her paperwork. Ah, good morning, Sakura. How did everything go yesterday? Okay, I guess. Seeing the distressed look on Sakura's face, Tsunade knew something big had happened. What's wrong, Sakura? Tsunade Shusho, I was wondering, could I ask you a hypothetical question? Alright, but you still have to give your report. Sakura adopted a sheepish grin and scratched the back of her head in a very Naruto-like way. Well, I was just, that is to say, if the Rasengan weren't limited to close combat, if it were a projectile, what rank do you think it would be? Tsunade's eyes widened as she suddenly stared off into space. Sakura got the impression that she was slightly frightened by the mere mention of the possibility. Seeing her mentor stare silently into space for 30 seconds, Sakura was about to snap Tsunade out of her trance when the blonde finally answered. S rank, easily. If there were another rank above that, a projectile Rasengan would definitely be difficult enough to earn it. Sakura couldn't believe her ears. She had thought it would be A rank, like the normal Rasengan, and that would have been impressive. He created 2 S-rank techniques in a month. And he's a genin? How the hell can this be Naruto? Sakura, I need you to be honest with me. The pink-haired genin looked up to see Tsunade wearing a very serious face. Is Naruto planning on creating such a technique? When Sakura stayed silent, she continued. I need you to tell me, Sakura. Also, I would advise you to tell him not to bother, if he is planning on it. It's impossible to. Tsunade Shosho Naruto can already do it. What? Tsunade was considering the difficulty of getting the Rasengan to maintain its form and power after ceasing contact with the hand when a horrible thought struck her. She forced her voice to be calm. Sakura, did you see the technique? Yes, Tsunade Shosho, we all saw it. Was he able to use it in conjunction with the other improvement he made to the Rasengan? Yes. After a long silence, she added, It's ridiculously powerful, Tsunade Shosho. I know, Sakura. Kakashi already told me about the Litama Rasengan that Naruto created. I think I'm ready to give my report now. At Tsunade's nod, Sakura recounted the previous day's events. Tsunade was completely awestruck by everything about Naruto's new technique, the speed, the power, the apparent complexity, and even the speed with which he had created it. She briefly considered creating a new jutsu rank just for Naruto, as this was less than likely to be the most amazing technique that he would ever produce. And rank seemed to have a nice ring to it, in her mind at least. Finally, as Sakura was finishing her report, Tsunade snapped back to reality. Then, finally, Naruto played Go for the first time. After beating Shikamaru a few times, he... Excuse me, Sakura, but I think I misheard you a second ago. I could have sworn you said that Naruto bested Shikamaru at Go. I did, and he did. But that's impossible. I can understand if Naruto's a genius with techniques, but he's an idiot when it comes to everything else. For him to beat Shikamaru should be impossible. He also beat Shikamaru and Asuma-sensei at Shugi last week. There were a few moments of shocked silence before Tsunade found herself smirking. Remembering just who she was talking about, it really didn't seem that far-fetched. So he's a strategist now? He really is an interesting guy. Yo. You're late again, eternal rival Kakashi. And it was your idea to meet here. As interesting as watching Guy fume was, Kakashi really had something important to talk about. Guy, I have a request. What is it, Kakashi? Do you wish to make our challenges more frequent? Would you like to admit that I have overcome you with the power of? I'll save us both some time and say no to everything you're about to say. I want you to give Naruto one-on-one training, like what you give Lee. No. What, no long-winded speech? No. I've risked enough just by giving him my old leg weights. I can't afford to help him any more than that. Guy, you don't understand. Naruto, Kakashi realized that his voice had been slightly passionate, and quickly composed himself. Naruto has, in the last 8 weeks, surpassed me in ninjutsu. If he can get some good taijutsu training now, he... Kakashi, while I normally tolerate your hip attitude, I'm not about to sit here and pretend to believe a lie like that. We both know that you are Konoha's #1 ninjutsu specialist. There's simply no way for him to have learned more techniques than you in. Resisting the urge to pretend not to be listening, Kakashi interrupted. I'm not saying that he knows more techniques than me, I'm saying that he knows better techniques. At Guy's questioning look, Kakashi continued. Not only does Naruto have more chakra than I do, he's invented some extremely powerful ninjutsu that I don't know. Why don't you just copy them? Kakashi noticed that Guy's question reeked of sarcasm, something very uncharacteristic of Guy, but he decided not to worry about it. I can't? What do you mean by that? Guy assumed, of course, that Kakashi was speaking of the moral difficulties that any normal person would experience when trying to steal techniques from their student, but he wanted to hear it from Kakashi. My Sharingan can't copy either of his original techniques. Guy nearly sweat dropped, but controlled himself. It took him a few moments to realize the implications of Kakashi's statement, but when he did, he snapped to attention. With Guy finally being quiet, Kakashi managed to explain Naruto's progress to Guy. Beginning with Naruto Senki no Jutsu, and moving through Udama Rasengan and Bakuretsu Bunshin no Jutsu. Kakashi, even if he is good with ninjutsu, Kakashi gave him a glare. Alright, very good with ninjutsu, that doesn't mean that he'll be good with taijutsu. You should have him stick to his strengths, since he has them. About that, Guy, you know those ridiculously heavy weights that you gave him? Kakashi proceeded to explain to Guy all of Naruto's physical training, both before and after receiving the weights. By the time he was done, Guy couldn't suppress his surprise. So you see, Guy, Naruto definitely has enough drive to become good in taijutsu. It will also complement his style well, with his speed-enhancing technique and the fact that he uses mostly taijutsu when he fights. Guy had a thoughtful look on his face during the silence that followed, but a frown when he ended it. I'll admit, Kakashi, that I would normally jump at the chance to train someone like Naruto. With such a brightly burning youthful spirit, Naruto really might become Hokage. Still, I can't. Have you tried appealing to Jiraiya? You know as well as I do that he's too stubborn for that. He sighed, but Guy got a sudden gleam in his eye. Kakashi, if you cannot convince him, then we will convince him. Huh? Kakashi again resisted the urge to add, did you say something? I'll go with you. Together we will convince Jiraiya to allow Naruto's youthful passion to be rewarded. He struck a nice guy pose, confident that Kakashi would think it the best possible course of action. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Guy almost face-faulted. Not only would that not work, it would expose the help you've been giving Naruto to Jiraiya. It would also mean that Jiraiya would watch the two of us more closely, and he would discover my help as well. We're not going to have his blessing either way, so my plan of doing it behind his back is better. Guy considered what Kakashi had said, and he had to admit that it made sense. Funny thing about Guy, he never cared about making sense. Alright Kakashi, I will agree to train Naruto on one condition. Kakashi forced himself not to his hopes up, because he had an idea of what the condition was. Is the condition that we confront Jiraiya first? How did you know? You're seriously asking that? With the way this conversation has been going? At the look on Guy's face, Kakashi nearly sweat dropped. Is there anything else I could possibly do? No. Kakashi's inner struggle raged on as he considered which was more important, his life or Naruto's training. Even if Jiraiya was unlikely to kill them, he was likely to injure them enough that they would be ineffective teachers for a few months. Knowing Jiraiya, he would even think to have Naruto's weights taken away. If anyone could carry them still, I can't just leave Naruto's potential untapped. Even if I teach him taijutsu, he'll never be as good under me as he would be under Guy. I really haven't been a very good teacher up until now, but is it really worth facing Jiraiya? Finally Kakashi reached his decision. Guy, I have one question to ask you before I can answer. What question is that, Kakashi? Is it possible that a death threat could get me out of this? No, it isn't. Alright, let's go see the perverted bastard who'll probably put us in the hospital. Yoshi! So you see, Jiraiya-sama, we have agreed that you must allow us to train Naruto. He is living in the explosion of youth, and… No. No? No. Kakashi looked back and forth between the ridiculously enthusiastic-looking Guy and the extremely annoyed-looking Jiraiya. I knew my idea was better Jiraiya-sama. I know that you're angry with Naruto, but… I'm not angry, but I am disappointed. His eyes bored into Kakashi's. I'm trying to save him some pain. Sasuke is about as likely to come back to Konoha as Orochimaru, and even if he does come back he won't be the friend that Naruto is looking for. Whether that's true or not, Naruto is free to make his own decisions, Jiraiya-sama. I understand that you have every right to refuse to train him, but you shouldn't be able to keep us from doing it. I never said you couldn't train him, I only said that I would break every bone in your bodies if you did. Don't you even want to know what his hard work has done, Jiraiya-sama? Guy's face betrayed anger with the pervert. If he continues at the rate he's managed so far, he very well could bring Sasuke back. Jiraiya couldn't help but be a little curious at a statement like that. Considering that, as far as he knew, Naruto was receiving no help, the blonde boy's progress should have been fairly slow. Alright, he let out a sigh, I suppose you aren't going to shut up until I hear you out. Yoshi! Kakashi, you know more about it than I do, why don't you tell him? Kakashi pinched the bridge of his nose and sighed. Alright, Jiraiya-sama. I guess I'll start with his physical training in the course of several weeks. Naruto was able to double his running speed, and his stamina is such that it brought Aka Hoshi to tears. Aka Hoshi? What's so impressive about that? Naruto had more stamina than that loser when I was teaching him to summon frogs before his Chunin exam finals. Yes, well, I thought it was important to note because it shows that Naruto's speed increase is enough to cause a Jounin and Anbu to become exhausted, getting no signs that Jiraiya was impressed, Kakashi sighed. Moving on, he's managed to greatly improve his taijutsu form, and I'd say his skill in taijutsu is now about Chunin level. Jiraiya still didn't look very impressed. As far as ninjutsu goes, he's already created 2 original techniques. Let me guess, the first technique would give me a nosebleed big enough to send me to Wave Country, and… Actually, no. His techniques aren't perverted in nature. Jiraiya's eyebrow raised at this bit of news, but it quickly lowered again. The first technique might still give you a nosebleed though. If he used it and punched you, he calls it Naruto Senku no Jutsu, and it amplifies his strength and speed. The effect is proportional to the amount of chakra he puts into the technique, and I've seen him become as much as 10 times faster when using it. 10 times, huh? That's not terribly impressive. It's more than Yandane's Shunshin, and he has enough chakra to make it even more effective. What's the other technique? A vastly more powerful version of Rasengan. Jiraiya gave no indication that he was impressed, but he couldn't help but be shocked at the claim. In what sense is it more powerful? In the sense that it does more damage, and to a larger area. He calls it Udama Rasengan, because the area of damage is actually spherical. I saw one blast decimate at least 15 trees, tear up the ground, and assault everything else in the area with gale force winds. I described the technique to Tsunade-sama, and she has decided that it is to be considered S rank. Jiraiya, the incredible ninja that he was, managed to stop himself from reacting to the news in any visible way. Is that all, Kakashi? No. He also learned Bakuretsu Bunshin in 2 weeks just by reading a scroll. Where did he get a scroll for an A-rank kinjutsu? Last I heard, Genin weren't allowed to be in possession of that scroll. Seeing no way out of it, Kakashi answered truthfully. I decided that I couldn't allow Naruto to go without some kind of direction, so I gave it to him. It's good to see that someone has some sense. All eyes were instantly on Tsunade, who was standing on the opposite side of the roof. I was beginning to think that no one would be willing to stand up to this blowhard. Tsunade, you know as well as I do that Naruto is deluding himself, and his delusions will never allow him to realize his dream. I'm just protecting him. No, Jiraiya, you're trying to change your past by living through him. That's not why I'm here though. Tsunade-sama, perhaps you can reason with Jiraiya-sama. For no apparent reason, Guy struck his nice guy pose. We must not let Naruto's passionate youth go to waste. Actually, Guy, that's not why I'm here either. Guy's face fell into an overly dramatic pout, but she ignored him. I just wanted to impress on Jiraiya the quality of the student he's given up. I didn't give him up. Jiraiya couldn't help but think that everyone around him was an idiot, as it was clear to him that Naruto would quickly realize that Sasuke wasn't really his friend. When he realizes the truth, and ceases his fruitless pursuits, I'll gladly take him back, and I'm sure he'll thank me for stopping him from being an idiot. I wouldn't be so sure of that if I were you. Tsunade's smirk was growing dangerously large. It seems that his drive to retrieve Sasuke is going to be one of the key factors to his growth. What with his new 18-hour daily training regimen, his friendship with the head librarian, and these new jutsu he's been creating, he'll probably surpass both of us within a year or two. 18 hours? He won't surpass us, he'll kill himself. You're actually allowing this? Not only am I allowing it, I'm encouraging it. Oddly enough, he seems to be built in such a way that he actually grows stronger at a quicker pace when he puts his body under constant near-fatal stress. Jiraiya, sporting a look of absolute terror at Tsunade's attitude towards the situation, would have responded had a particular thought not struck him at that moment. Did you say he knows Mabui? / does this mean I'm not welcome in the library anymore? / Yeah, she's even helped him with his techniques. Speaking of which, he's developed another new S-rank ninjutsu, which is the reason I came here. Tsunade just watched with a satisfied expression as Kakashi and Guy displayed obvious shock at the news, and even Jiraiya's front faltered for a moment. Not only is his new technique extremely powerful, but it's of particular interest to you, Jiraiya. Clearing his throat to make sure that his voice would be steady, Jiraiya prepared himself to ask the question he knew she was waiting for. And why exactly would that be, Tsunade? Think about it, Jiraiya. What was the only thing that Yandame ever gave up on? Rasengan Tama of as realization hit him, Jiraiya felt a small surge of fear at what she was implying. That's impossible. We spent 2 years trying to figure out a way to make that technique work. I'll admit that Naruto's determination helps him a lot, but he's no genius. If you actually expect me to believe... Actually, Jiraiya, I don't really care whether you believe me or not. We have 10 witnesses to the success of Naruto's Rasengan Dangan, as well as its sister technique, Udama Dangan. Not only do these techniques add power and versatility to the originals, Sakura informs me that they move at ridiculous speeds. Udama Dangan apparently moves quickly enough that Lee's eyes couldn't even follow it. Staring at Tsunade in only half shock, Kakashi was considering inventing a new word for the look on her face. Smug just didn't cover it any longer. Once he managed to calm himself down from the thought of Naruto's technique, which didn't take long because of his generally cool attitude. He chanced a glance at Jiraiya. Said Sannin was simply staring at Tsunade, his eyes open almost as wide as his mouth, as he apparently tried to convince himself that either Tsunade or Sakura had lied. Kakashi had to admit, it gave him quite a bit of satisfaction to see Jiraiya so utterly shocked. Guy, meanwhile, wasn't concerned with anyone else's reactions, as he was far too conflicted within himself. He really wanted to train Naruto, because he knew that Naruto knew the importance of hard work, but he wasn't sure that he would be able to keep up with the boy. If Naruto was really training 18 hours per day, it would make even his training with Lee seem slightly lazy by comparison. Not only that, he didn't want Naruto to have an even more extreme advantage over Lee. Considering that Naruto already had the same hard work advantage as Lee, as well as the ability to use ninjutsu and a large, considering his age, arsenal of techniques, most of which would be able to kill Lee with a single hit, it just seemed over the top. Still, he had promised Kakashi that if they confronted Jiraiya he would train Naruto, and Guy was nothing if not a man of his word. Finally, after much thought, Jiraiya managed to compose himself. I don't care, it doesn't change anything. What do you mean it doesn't change anything? It changes everything, proving you wrong in the process. No, it doesn't. Jiraiya gave Tsunade the best cold glare he could, but he knew it contained traces of the shock he still felt. He'll still never convince Sasuke to come back. Sasuke still isn't his friend, he still needs to face that pain, and he won't realize his dream until he gives up on Sasuke. Even with a technique like that, he's hardly a match for Orochimaru. I'm not going to train him, and he's not strong enough to leave the village without one of us to protect him. Nothing has changed at all. You know Jiraiya Naruto may be an idiot, but you make him look like one hell of a genius. Kakashi, I fully expect you to enter both members of your team in the upcoming Chunin exams. The exams are in Konoha, so Naruto can attend without much danger. As for his training, I think he's probably better off without Jiraiya, but if you want to line something up to help him, then I'll support you wholeheartedly. Don't worry about the old pervert. If he does anything to you, then I'll fix you up and deal 10 times as much damage to him. After giving Jiraiya a thoroughly menacing glare, she turned and left. Guy, we're done here. Let's go. Yoshi! And with that, Jiraiya was left to his anger, alone on the roof. As Naruto sat alone in the middle of the training ground, or what remained of it, he came to a startling realization: he was completely out of ideas. Having improved the Rasengan in every way that he could imagine, he had nothing of Yandame's left to work with. He had tried reading some scrolls in the library about famous ninja, but most famous ninja had relied on Kekai Genkai, unique weapons, or other specialties that he didn't have. Left with only one realistic option, Naruto turned to his own experiences, hoping to find a weakness to correct or a strength to develop. Starting with his academy years, he tried to remember as many of his fights as possible. A few sparring matches had taken place in the academy, but nothing serious enough to reveal his strengths or weaknesses. The bell test showed that his speed and forethought needed to be improved, but not much else. His part in Team 7's first fight with Zabuza was just a plan, and he didn't remember much of the second one. His recollection of the fight with the Grassnin, Team 7's first real fight in the Forest of Death, was also fuzzy. The Rain-Nin team was defeated with a Kaiga Bunshin trick, not much to work on in that department, and Kiba was basically defeated with a fart. When he came to his fight with Kiba, he was sure that he would find something to work on, but he was wrong. The only real problem he had in the fight was that he wasn't as fast as Kiba, and Guy's weights were sure to fix that. Fighting Niji had also shown off his lack of speed, but not much else that could really help him. Getting frustrated at all of the dead ends, Naruto turned to the fight with Gaara. He briefly considered working on the 1,000 Years of Pain technique, but decided that it wasn't really worth the effort. Even the fight with Kabuto revealed nothing of interest, which left him with only one major fight that he could remember: Sasuke. Naruto had been purposely avoiding thinking about the fight with Sasuke, mostly because of the things Sasuke had said during the fight, but he realized that he couldn't avoid it forever. Going over the fight in his mind, he quickly realized that it had been the single longest fight of his ninja career. He decided to break it into sections, both normal, Sasuke's bruise thing, no one had ever explained to him what the curse seal was, Kyuubi's help, and both weird. The fight, while they were both normal, had been, in a word, pitiful. Sasuke had completely dominated that part of the fight until its end, which was pretty much a tie. All that Naruto could remember from that part of the fight, however, was that Sasuke's strength and speed had increased drastically for no real reason. Moving on, he was proud that Sasuke had resorted to his trump card first. The Chidori through his chest had hurt like hell, but at least Sasuke had felt threatened by his capabilities. Still, Naruto couldn't really think of anything of use except for a healing technique, which he really had no need for. Luckily, the Kyuubi chakra section was much more enlightening. While using Kyuubi's chakra, He had done things instinctively that had turned out to be very effective, and he knew exactly which one he needed the most. Before he could get to work, however, he heard a familiar voice. Yo. Kakashi-sensei? Why are you here? I'm just here to tell you about some cool training I've lined up for you if you're interested. Of course I'm interested. When do we start? Kakashi-sensei's finally gonna train me. I'll get stronger for sure. Are you gonna teach me a new technique? Or some super taijutsu move? Oh, I know you're going to. Naruto. Naruto's rambling ceased instantly at the harsh tone. I won't be the one training you, it'll be. Again? Why won't you train me, Kakashi-sensei? To be honest, Naruto, I don't think my training would do you much good right now. I got you something even better though. How would you like to train with Guy and Lee? Kakashi's question was answered pretty clearly by the drool from Naruto's mouth, but the boy decided to respond verbally too. You got super brows to train me? Yada! I'm gonna get so strong. When do I meet him? Kakashi needed to calculate exactly how late he was. I'd say about an hour ago, maybe 2. What? I'm late? Kyuso. He proceeded to Team Guy's training area at a pace that Kakashi couldn't really describe. All he knew was that Naruto clearly couldn't handle Guy's weights yet, meaning that Guy would probably swap them out for lighter ones. Forcing his curiosity aside, he went back to his original task, finding a third member to take the Chunin exams with Naruto and Sakura. Ah, Naruto, there you are. I expected you here 5 minutes ago. 5 minutes? Kakashi-sensei said an hour. I know, Kakashi, and I didn't want you to be late, so I told him to get you here an hour earlier than I wanted you to be here. Brilliant strategy, Guy-sensei. Lee was about halfway to his nice guy pose when a question occurred to him. But why is Naruto-kun here? Good question, Lee. Try as he might, Naruto couldn't figure out how they kept making their teeth do that weird sparkling thing. Naruto will be joining us in our training for a while, as he is a shining example of the power of youth. Do you guys talk like that all the time? Lee and Guy chose to ignore Naruto's question. This is great, Naruto-kun. I look forward to seeing you prove that dropouts can defeat geniuses with hard work. Yoshi! Let's start training. Not yet, Naruto. Guy could tell that Naruto was anxious to get going, something that he admired, but he knew that it would be pointless unless he first gauged Naruto's skill. First, I need to watch you spar with Lee so that I can see your taijutsu in action. What? I have to fight Fuzzy Brows already? Not only was Naruto not confident with his ability to move properly in his leg weights, he had finished his 5 hours of laps just 2 hours earlier. Relax, Naruto, it isn't a full-blown fight. The rules are simple, taijutsu only, do your best, and don't give up until I end the match. Ready? Lee took his normal stance while Naruto shook his head furiously. Begin! Lee, overestimating Naruto, ran at him full speed. Naruto saw Lee's movements clearly, but couldn't dodge with the weights on, so he blocked the roundhouse kick with his arm. Seeing an opening, Lee threw a punch at Naruto's torso, using the remaining momentum from the kick to add speed and power. Naruto tried to jump backward out of the way, but wasn't fast enough with his weights on. Lee's punch sent Naruto flying into a tree, then tumbling onto the ground, where he stayed for a few seconds before standing up. Never one to take the defensive, Naruto charged Lee and threw a punch at the boy's head. Lee merely caught Naruto's punch and redirected it towards the ground before chopping the newly exposed back of Naruto's neck. Naruto, of course, fell to the ground with a dull thud. What surprised Lee and to a lesser extent Guy was that Naruto got right back up, even though Lee's attack had been a perfect knockout shot. Naruto, I think those weights may be too much for you after all. Maybe you should try without. No! I can do this, I have to. With that, Naruto renewed his offensive. He threw a roundhouse at Lee, which Lee blocked, but then he spun around and followed up with a crescent kick from his other foot. Lee barely had time to register the sudden increase in Naruto's speed before the attack hit his arm right above the first. While blocking the attack was well within Lee's capabilities, the fact that it was unexpected and several times stronger than Lee expected it to be, along with the fact that the first attack had weakened his guard, caused his block to give way. Lee, having been kicked full force in the face, found himself flying several feet through the air and landing in a heap on the ground. Naruto, who had fallen after using both of his legs to attack, got up with a smirk. Don't underestimate me, Fuzzy Brows. Seeing Lee getting up as well, Naruto charged again. On the sidelines, Guy couldn't help but wonder how Naruto had suddenly gotten stronger in the middle of the fight, even if the change hadn't been terribly significant. Dodging Naruto's punch, Lee went into a leg sweep to find that Naruto had taken to the air and was about to come down with an axe kick. In one smooth motion, Lee brought his kick upward and into Naruto's back mid-flip, changing Naruto's position and orientation such that his kick missed Lee completely. It wasn't that Naruto got up that shocked the green-clad pair, it was that he got up almost immediately, didn't seem winded, and showed no signs of being injured in any way. Considering that Lee's kick had connected with Naruto's spine, it seemed unreasonable that he could be completely fine. You were right, Naruto-kun, I've been underestimating you. I guess it's about time that I stop holding back. Yoshi! I will. That's enough, Lee. Naruto. I think I know enough about your skills that we can get started. Lee looked a little disappointed, but Naruto just looked confused, as though he had forgotten what they were actually doing. Finally, after thinking about it for several long moments, Naruto remembered why he had been fighting Lee. So you'll train me now? Where should we start? Are you gonna teach me how to open the Hashimen? Oh. Are you gonna teach me? Naruto. Listen, when I guy, who is used to having his students, Lee, at least, ignore him to the point where a punch in the face was necessary, was surprised to see that Naruto was staring at him completely silently, clearly waiting for whatever he had to say. Yes, well, I'll start with your strengths. Along with a burning determination that can only be obtained in the springtime of life, you have great resilience. I've never seen anyone take attacks so well before. You also seem to have plenty of stamina, and your ability to come up with unpredictable tactics is amazing. He struck his nice guy pose. I truly admire your spirit of youth. What tactics are you talking about, Super Brows? All I did was fight. Guy hadn't really been thinking about the sparring match when he had said it, but he was still able to think of one example. Well, for example, when you used your second leg to attack the same defensive point on Lee. Not only had the first attack weakened Lee's guard, but the second attack was so unexpected that he didn't think to block it anyway. Combine that with the fact that you maintained momentum from the original attack, meaning that the extra weight was already dealt with, and you're left with the brilliant maneuver which landed a blow on Lee, despite his vastly superior strength and speed. That's a tactic? I just did it because it made sense. That's what tactics are, Naruto. How can he not know that? Anyway, onto your weak points. Naruto's grin made a triumphant return at the thought of correcting all of his weaknesses. Speed, strength, and form are your clear weaknesses. Understandably, that statement made Naruto's sweat drop. Guy had basically just said that Naruto's weakness, as far as taijutsu was concerned, was taijutsu. I can understand that, training under Kakashi, your speed and strength aren't your strong points, but your form is your main weak point. Some of your moves almost look like you made them yourself. I did. You did what, Naruto? I did make them myself. No one's ever taught me taijutsu. Guy's mouth opened and closed several times, as though he had something to say but couldn't put it to words. Finally, Lee managed to ask just the question that his sensei was trying to ask. Didn't the academy instructors ever teach you taijutsu? That's one of the fundamentals that they're supposed to cover for every prospective genin. One of them tried in my first year, but they gave up on me when I didn't do well. Guy made a mental note to find out who all of Naruto's teachers had been in order to question them personally. Or, better yet, hand them over to Tsunade. Well, that won't matter, Naruto. As long as you continue to live with youthful passion and work hard, you'll learn Gyukin in no time. Actually, that's where we're going to start for today. Lee, you can get back to your normal training while I get Naruto set up. Yoshi! Lee resumed his training, which consisted of punching a log repeatedly. Naruto, for now you need to practice the form of a proper punch, as that seems to be your weakest attack. Although Naruto didn't appreciate the criticism, he was happy to learn the correct way to put his weight into a punch, so that he didn't have to rotate his whole body with it. Practice that for now, and come get me when you've finished 2,000 punches with each hand. 2,000? That'll take forever. It might take a long time, but it's the best way to grow stronger. Seeing Naruto's look of steely determination convinced him that his new student wouldn't let him down, so he went back to Lee. In the background, he could hear Naruto counting out loud, just like Lee always did. 20 minutes later, Guy heard some numbers that he didn't think could be right. 1,200, 1,201, 1,202, 1,203. Of course, for Naruto to have reached that number so quickly would mean that Naruto hadn't slowed down at all, which would require not only an incredible amount of stamina, but arms immune to fatigue. He decided to blow it off as his imagination, until Naruto called for him about 13 minutes later. Super Brows Sensei. Now what? Even Lee looked up in shock at how quickly Naruto had finished. Naruto, are you really done already? Yes, why is that so surprising? I didn't speed up or anything. Let me see your form to make sure you have it down. Naruto demonstrated 2 perfect punches, which Guy found somewhat unsettling. Yoshi! Way to be youthful, Naruto. The next move that we need to work on is your roundhouse kick. Guy demonstrated the proper technique before telling Naruto to practice it 1,500 times with each leg. Not only will this perfect your form, it will also help you get used to your weights. This way you can work on all three weaknesses at once. He went back to Lee, hearing the familiar monotonous counting in the background. An hour later, he was glad to hear Naruto still at it, although he was surprised that, even with the weights, Naruto's pacing stayed even at about 12 kicks per minute. Suddenly, after about 10 more minutes, the counting stopped for a moment, and Naruto mumbled something to himself before continuing at a faster pace. 2 hours later, Naruto was reaching the end of his count. 1,498, 1,499, 1,500. Superbrows Sensei. What's next? Guy walked over to him, not entirely sure whether he believed that Naruto had done it. Let's see your form. Naruto again demonstrated perfect Gyukin form, leaving Guy to wonder what kind of idiot had actually given up on teaching him. Yoshi! Now we need to work on your upper body strength. What's wrong with my upper body strength? Well, from the looks of it, I'd say you barely train your upper body at all. Your exercise this time will be, he paused for dramatic effect, spinning in place, 10 laps around Konoha on your hands. Naruto stared, open-mouthed, at the utterly indescribable absurdity that was Guy's theatrical maneuver. Finally, after 10 seconds, he forced himself to process what Guy had said. Oh, so the leg weights will help my arms get stronger too. Yada! Not leaving time for a response, Naruto flipped onto his hands before, extremely, slowly making his way toward the village. Guy had actually expected him to collapse under the weight at first, and was very impressed. Let's sum up the situation. Tsunade-sama said that I need to get both of my students in the Chunin exam. I have found one opening after asking around for 2 days. Tsunade-sama made it clear that Naruto's participation is more important than Sakura's, but Sakura knows both of Asuma's genin better than Naruto does. If I don't find Naruto a team, he won't be able to become a Chunin for years, and he'll probably hate me for it. Kyuso/. Staring at the calendar on the wall nearest him, Kakashi had a sudden realization that changed everything. He quickly paid for his dango and rushed off to the training grounds where Lee, Guy, and Naruto were training. Naruto was making his way around the village on his hands again, but Guy was the important person of the moment. Walking into the clearing nonchalantly, he wanted to give the impression that everything was normal. Yo! Kakashi, you're late. Yeah, sorry about that, Guy, but I have the perfect challenge this time. Like I'm going to believe, you actually thought about the challenge? What is it? The challenge this time is to be the first to find an opening for one of my genin to take the Chunin exam. Asuma's team doesn't count, and you can't sacrifice one of your students just to win. Do you accept? What kind of challenge is that? A shinobi needs to be able to gather information. After thinking about it for a moment, Guy decided that Kakashi was right. He had been looking forward to a sparring match, but he could see the value in such a challenge. Yoshi! Lee, help Naruto with his training while I'm gone. If I cannot win this challenge, I'll have to do 50,000 push-ups. Kakashi couldn't help but think that, sometimes, it pays to be a genius.